We should be good. All right. So, welcome back, everyone, to the Rocket On Productions podcast. We still haven't thought of a better name, so we're just going to stick with that for right now.
Yeah, just fight through the objective. Maybe that should be our podcast name. I'm just kidding.
Fight through the objective.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so,
welcome to Rocket on a Star Citizen podcast.
yeah.
Just
Man,
kidding.
if we never play that game, if it comes out, it's going to be really weird. It's just like.
Yeah, I know, right? I have the demo and I played it a little bit, but
I played Elite Dangerous and I enjoyed it for like a week. Granted, it was like an entire week of me just playing that game, and let me
yeah,
just say it was it was
an experience.
it's very immersive, but I bought it when it first launched, so it was very immersive, but there was little to nothing to do,
Yeah,
and
right.
the game could be like unfairly difficult at times, in my opinion. Which
I did
brings
hear it got updated pretty good though. I don't know if
Oh,
you've
you
seen
know,
any of
it
the
has
new
a
stuff.
ton of stuff that I'm interested in trying. It's just that the investment factor for me is just way
Yeah,
too much right now.
I totally understand, man. And that's part of I think I think with Star Citizen and those types of games, like same with Elite Dangerous, or where you have these huge planetary models that you can do space landings on, but it's like I think that's going to be the the match to square in the next generation because you have so much technology that makes the expansiveness possible, but at the same time, like you said, Elite Dangerous and Star Citizen are the kind of games where it's like they're huge, like big open worlds with nothing to do, you know, or like I don't know. I guess the same could be said for like procedurally generated stuff, where it's like if you don't have the artistic human hand, it somehow corrodes the experience into kind of doldrum and
Yeah, unless like procedural generated stuff has been like handcrafted at first
yeah, right, yeah,
into ways to be cohesive. But the only problem with procedurally generated stuff in that way is that like eventually it all starts to feel very samey rather
yeah,
than
right,
different all the time.
yeah, cookie cutter, and
You know, like
I don't feel the craftsmanship in games like that
yeah,
generally.
Minecraft is totally procedurally generated with its worlds, but at the same time,
Yeah,
it's left up entirely to an algorithm. So every time you get a result, it feels unique. And
right.
the tile sets I see is used often, is like, especially in games like Warframe.
Yeah,
Those man, like after a while, you just get like really like numb to all the layouts because like the
yeah.
tile sets will shift around and like
That
that.
is 100% the reason that I don't play Warframe today is because it just doesn't hold me. I don't feel like exploring a lot of that game
Yeah,
is all that meaningful because like if you've been in one long hallway with a bunch of amorphous blob people, you've been in every hallway.
also, I mean,
And
Plains of Eidolon is like
oh yeah,
is like
don't
is an open world crafted area, but again, like that's
I haven't played it in a year or so,
yeah.
so or 2 years maybe. I haven't seen a lot of the most recent updates, and I'm sure Warframe fans would gut me for that. But
I mean,
I'm just saying, yeah,
that's another one of those games where I need to be super invested to keep playing, and like after a while, I was kind of like, you know what, this is fun, but like would rather just play other things at this point, especially because like again,
right.
I'm just more narratively minded, and the story of Warframe comes
Yeah,
at
dude.
you in like drips.
I know, right? Well, that's what I mean. For some people, the grind is all there is. Like, I can't imagine, like, I don't know, maybe some people are really into the lore of Warframe, but I can't believe that that's really the meat of the experience. Like ninja flips and like build variety and
Yeah,
kind of, the same thing that guide action RPGs. I think that's definitely got some DNA in there, but that tends not to be my wheelhouse when I'm playing a video game. But teach their
yeah.
own, of course.
I mean, yeah, like, but I will say like the little story that I did get from it was actually pretty decent. So the game's
Oh,
good.
okay. Yeah.
It's just not for me.
I shouldn't generalize. You're right. I shouldn't. That's what that's what IGN does, and that we are not
No,
IGN.
definitely.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry. No, what were you saying?
yeah. We're merely only two people, and so
Two mere mortals with absolutely no authority whatsoever to talk about any of this stuff. So,
who are only
take our
kind of good at video games. So
yeah, yeah. Seriously. Speaking of filthy casuals,
yeah.
I wanted to get on paper, or I guess in audible form my reaction to my latest Sekiro run because I just played through Sekiro and Video New Game Plus, and it's just fresh in my mind, and I think that plays well into talking about difficulty in video games and that debate looks like. Because if you remember anything about Sekiro when it launched, there was a big outcry from a lot of mainstream gaming journalism that said that it was inaccessible and that an easy mode wouldn't have hurt it or the experience, and that it was essentially gatekeeping a lot of that experience in more than a few ways. Now, I think that is a controversial point, and it's not a universal one. You can't just make the hand wave. But what I can do is like go through painstakingly the details of what I experienced and how other games have made those situations better or worse. And I think we can talk about at the end generally what I thought, where it ranks in sort of the Soulsborne pantheon, because that is my wheelhouse, my favorite series. And whether Sword Saint Ishin is the end all be all of video game bosses, which he might be.
Maybe. Yeah. Because again, I've never played to any depth any of the Souls games or like Soulsborne games. Bloodborne, I
Right.
got pretty decently far in, but again, I was like, man, like this is hard, and I'm trying to study for a degree right now. So,
Yeah, it's that's what I have I have been the guy who tries. I'm the guy at the party who tries to convince you to play Dark Souls or play Bloodborne.
right, yeah,
I got my cousin into it. One of my beta readers actually. Side note: I'm a published author now, so if you want to get kind of my taste for how much I love Bloodborne and Lovecraft and cosmic horror and gunslinger gothic fantasy, buy my book. It's called The Color. But anyway, I
a
digress.
link to that will be in the description down below.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have it feels so weird to have to say that out loud because I am not the type of person to do self promotion of any kind. But
Well,
it's
I mean,
also
it's either self
how do you?
promotion or no promotion at this point.
Yeah,
So,
right. Yeah, I'm trying to pull a Herman Melville and die poor, and so that everybody can just appreciate me after I'm dead.
just be like a tragic artist. Like I wrote Moby Dick, and
Right,
it was like it
exactly.
was my greatest work, and everyone hated it.
It's a chicken and egg kind of argument. It's like, is Herman Melville a genius because he was unacclaimed for during his life, or is he
Well, no,
unacclaimed because he was a genius?
well, a history tangent going on here, but like he was actually super popular for a lot of his adventure novels in the beginning, and was actually quite wealthy off of his stuff. But
Oh, was it?
then he started writing books like Moby Dick to get
Right,
philosophical and everything like that. But
and that's where he
but
lost
in
things.
that day and age, he lost people just because they wanted more of his original like action adventure oriented stuff. So
Call me Ishmael. Yeah. I probably shouldn't. I probably should have known that, given that I have a quote in the beginning of my book from Herman Melville.
it's all good. That's like one trivia fact I remember from like history, like literature history class.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, no, well, hey, you know what? I think we all could afford to read a little bit more Herman Melville.
Or S.
But
Scott Fitzgerald. That's also good.
yeah, oh, absolutely, yeah, classics.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're not here to talk about that.
Yeah,
Let's,
Rocket On Productions podcast, the
yeah,
literature podcast for all your
absolutely,
reading needs, apparently. So,
absolutely. Well, I think I don't know. What do you want to know about Sekiro from the or like even you can ask another question about the Souls games too if you want.
I mean, this can't be focused on Sekiro for right now. So, I've
Yep.
watched you play it,
Yep.
and I was just kind of
First
like,
run. Yeah.
good lord, this requires a lot of timing, of
Yeah.
which, I feel like it becomes muscle memory after a certain point, but still watching that, especially like, I think I saw you fight a dude with like 6 arms, and he was
Oh
swinging like a
yeah.
flurry of swords at you, and you were just like, "Ah,
Yeah. Yeah. I think you might be thinking of the centipede mini boss. Like I can't remember what his actual name is, but he's like this crazy dude who has like Wolverine hands and he just like slashes. Unless I can't. I don't think there's. I'm trying to think of a boss that has like 6 arms. Or
It may
anyway,
have been the centipede guy because he was just
where he
swinging.
just yeah he's just wailing on you basically like
Yeah,
seven or eight combo where he just like he's lunatic Wolverine. That's what I was thinking he was. Yeah. Yeah, no, he. Well, no, I. It's funny you say that because that's like the biggest cliche that you see just painted all over the subreddit is about how people are saying, oh, I'm really bouncing off of Sekiro. I don't know that I like it as much as the Souls games. Like that's all. That's actually a very common thread. It seems like to me from Souls fans because
well, again,
like
the pacing of the gameplay is way different because of the parry
yeah,
system, and then Souls is more positioning and like knowing when the opening is, while Sekiro
yeah,
is like you dive in and make them break their posture to
As I
eliminate
heard
them.
150 different times from Ishin when he kills you in the last boss fight, he says, "Hesitation is defeat." And
As
it's
a
like,
you fucking.
and I kind of think that's like a hilarious spit in your face because that's exactly the opposite of how that game works, by my experience. Like hesitation in or like that's I think Sekiro is probably the most defensive game in all of the Souls games. Like Souls has always rewarded you for being very aggressive, but really,
Bloodborne, I feel, emphasized that the
oh yeah,
most.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Bloodborne even more so for sure.
yeah.
You know, like you find very quickly in Dark Souls that the shield is a what do you call it? A safety blanket. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a false sense of security. I always would tell people I said like don't even wouldn't even bother with a shield when you got ninja flips and
Dude,
a strength
I
weapon.
want to roleplay as a knight in shining armor, ready to smash
and
shit.
you're gonna die as a hollow undead. But yeah, so like it's funny because Sekiro is just a much more defensive game and much more required timing and parrying. But like the cliche that you always see on the Reddit is they call it a rhythm game. They say that Sekiro is a rhythm game, and once you start to figure that out, it clicks. And I think that's an annoying buzzword type.
Description and kind of like
Yeah, right.
oversimplifies it.
Like anything that a comment troll can say but not really mean it. Like get good is another example of that. Like
Yeah.
that's get good as a philosophy. It really will change your experience in the game. Don't get me wrong. Like
Yeah.
you just got to be humble about it and you got to take your licks and you got to improve. And that's been like the guiding logic in Dark Souls and Bloodborne, where it's like in the first you just didn't know how the systems worked. You didn't know how the controls worked. You didn't know how the game worked. But like in the same way that you get better and at any game, that it convinces you that you're more powerful. You can upgrade your stuff. But the thing is, the biggest difference to me from Dark Souls and Sekiro is that Sekiro makes that raw skill, that raw actual understanding and mastery of the game center stage to the point of like you said, it's about getting into like muscle memory. I mean that is 100%. That is the only thing. And now I like in it used to happen in Dark Souls where the time you beat the boss, you heal very few times because you got all the moves memorized at this point. Where like exactly when to roll for your iframes, and to this day, like I have killed Nameless Kings so many times in Dark Souls 3 that I don't even worry about it. I generally, without even thinking about it, I know what his move set is. And I don't have to like in the split second, my reaction time is like, oh, he's about to do his thrust move. I dodge iframe, but the thing is, like with Sekiro, Ishin is exactly the same way. Where like I just started another new game plus two, I guess. Is that how it goes? Anyway,
I think so. Yeah.
yeah. So like I'm on my second new game plus, if that makes sense, and I am just mopping up, and like that's what a lot of Sekiro players will say is like what it takes to actually complete that game is such an incredible level of mastery and understanding that you become a living god in that it's a weird transcendental enlightening experience that people always used to talk about Dark Souls. It's this enlightenment. It makes you kind of appreciate. It's the whole thing. You don't value what you don't earn, which I think is probably the best way to put it when you're playing a Souls game. Is like all they're doing is making you earn it.
Yeah.
Like they're just not. It's gatekeeping, and you could call it cruel, and that's a fair criticism. I don't think it's unfair to say that Sekiro is the cruelest game they've ever made.
And yeah,
Um,
I think that's like
but
because it's definitely like gotten a lot more visceral reactions from everyone, especially gaming journalists,
yeah,
just because
right.
like they couldn't beat the game.
Well, and
Most of them couldn't at least.
right,
And
and
yeah,
yeah, right.
yeah, that just kind of like compared to the Souls games, where it seemed like the completion rate was much higher. That like that whole need of mastery, like
Yeah,
it's probably what makes it again, as you say, the cruelest like game they've had because it's like you need to get good at this game
yeah, right.
or you're just gonna like fail.
Well, in
There's no
Souls,
proper cheese tactic in Sekiro.
exactly. Yeah, and that's a good point. Like the best part about the Souls game, the reasons that I don't think it's really that difficult. The prepare to die mantra on Souls was valid given how hard those games are, especially in the beginning. But it's also, I think, antithetical to what the game is trying what the theme of the game is, which is I think it's perseverance and being able to overcome. Right, that's like the real mythos of you being a hollow, right, and having to go through the world and literally all the other hollows you see who've just other cursed undead who've just lost their minds because they've died so many times, and the idea that a person who gives a Souls game, no offense to you, but like you tried the Souls for a couple hours, and you just realize, hey, maybe it wasn't for you. In the way that's explained in the game, given the multiplayer elements and stuff like that, is that you are one of those hollow undead that my character ran into while he was trying to link the fire, and my character is the one who happened to link the fire, but you and all the other people who ever quit the game and just bounced off of it are the are the sh- are the husks populating this cursed undead world, right? And so I appreciate that meta real hard, you
Harsh.
know. But yeah, I'm just saying, like, I'm just for the sake of the facetious point.
Yeah.
But with Sekiro though, especially with like the way gaming journalists reacted to it, I think is pretty funny and really like after because I've beaten the last boss and I know what it feels like to have stood on top of that mountain. I mean, for one, for the days that it took me to beat Ishii in this most recent time, I couldn't stop thinking about it. It was making my heart feel heavy. It felt like a burden, something that just I couldn't. I was on a run. And I was just getting angry thinking about how could they possibly get away with putting this boss in this game. That was my reaction, having not like when you're on the cusp of beating a boss that you haven't beaten yet, and he's stomping you into the floor on the first phase time and time again. You just get you obviously get frustrated and annoyed, and you're like, and you immediately think this is insane, and you just kind of throw your hands up and do the gamer rage thing. But then the funny thing is, like, the second anybody beats Sekiro is the second they immediately like they release the tension from their shoulders and stand a little bit taller and go and and like do the Neo thing, like, I know kung fu.
Kung Fu
It's
Fighting.
like, right, and so the two things that I feel like you have to square in the general terms for that game anyway is that it's the most extreme version of the Souls like heroin mainline, where it's like you hate the boss and you're screaming and you're angry and you're frustrated, but when you beat the boss, it is total existential euphoric relief. It is just it. I mean, I woke Haley up because I screamed in the middle of the night. Uh, you know, and she's like, "Why are you screaming?" She texted me a text said, "Why are you screaming?" It's like, I just beat the Sword Saint Ishin.
Sorry.
So like, right? No, I mean it exactly. It's hilarious, but it is just it's that it's like it just does seem to come back down to like you don't value what you don't earn. Now, I think the interesting comparison, especially with like the more the nitnoy minutia of the design philosophy of like Sekiro, even compared against the design of a game like Fallen Order, which is I think the closest game to Sekiro that I can think of at the moment.
Yeah.
Uh, it feels a lot like Sekiro to me. The timing feels very specific and frame specific, but like,
It's definitely
but it also,
easier though because I beat it.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, you filthy casual beat it.
Hey, sir.
No, but like at the same time, it's not necessarily like the things that there is manufactured difficulty in games like Dark Souls and Sekiro, and in the same way that like there's manufactured difficulty in plenty of other mainstream games, like we play Monster Hunter together pretty often, and and you have to hear me just lament about what I consider to be manufactured difficulty and status effects. And it's like, oh, you didn't bring your sleepy pills to this fight. I guess you're gonna be in for a long 50 minutes, like that. And I know like there's defenses, but anyway, so Sekiro specifically, not to. There's plenty of examples of like bosses that just don't make uh that are just manufactured hard. Like you take a boss who's a ghost or whatever, and And actually, can I hold on? Can I just pause real fast? My
Yes.
freaking cat is just being stop it. My cat is clawed at the door and making a bunch of noise and distracting me. Okay, sorry. So anyway, like the terror effect in Sekiro is the same as frenzy in Bloodborne and curse in Dark Souls, and it just drives me up a wall. Now, I appreciate the element for the sake of like, you know, there's one part in Dark Souls 3 in the Ring City where you're running around and there are these stupid angels shooting you just mercilessly with these with these curse arrows. And so when the curse status builds up, once it maxes out, it just kills you right away and you just flat out die. Same thing happens with terror in Sekiro, right?
Well, you just get a quick
Where
attack if you get scared enough.
yeah, right. Where you'll get exactly, or like there's one other one. I can't remember what it's actually called in the game. But it's like age. You it literally just makes you old once you get to the Fountainhead Palace. Like you have these worm nobles. They're these dragon. They're kind of they're I'm trying to think of how to explain it. They're these like they live in divine uh the divine realm. So it's like, but and they're basically just gluttons for their own immortality. But it basically just makes them wonky, and it's kind of the curse of immortality. And so what you spend the whole game doing is trying to sever the ties of immortality because a couple of humans have gotten the um have like the divine blood or like they've gained the ability to, or they're really coveting the immortal thing, right? So like your dad, the owl, and the Ashinas are trying to make themselves immortal by using the divine heir's blood, for different reasons. Like your dad, the owl, just wants to be immortal because that'd be cool. The Ashinas, like Ishin and his son Genichiro, or grandchild rather, grandson Genichiro, are trying to are earnestly they're trying to make themselves immortal, but they're also trying to make Ashina proper immortal, and because they think that Ashina, because it's in the warring states, that the Ashina family and the Ashina like war clan makes makes the land better, right? And so like it's kind of this corrupted version of nationalism, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
in feudal Japan. Um, but anyway, it's like so there's a ton of like lore elements that I think are really strong and great that aren't explained to you up front, and the stuff that is explained to you, I think the narrative design in Sekiro is not worth the marbles. I think it's lacking pretty hard. It reminds me of that scene in Shrek when Lord Farquaad is talking to the
The Muffin Man.
gingerbread man, yeah,
Yeah.
and so they're just like they're rapping and kind of saying the same things back to one another, and it's like, do you know the Muffin Man? It's like the Muffin Man, the Muffin Man. He's married to the Muffin Man. It's like everything that Kuro says to Sekiro, he just goes, the divine realm. Yes, the divine realm. Oh, the dragon's blood heritage. The dragon's blood heritage? Yes, the dragon's blood heritage. And you're like,
So it's like
I am going to tear out your eyes, you little bastard.
Metal Gear.
Oh my god, Metal Gear. Yeah, right. And not the first or the last
Yeah.
Eastern game to suffer from this kind of sort of kabuki theater, but it's like either way,
Yeah,
it
like
sucks because
doing that every now and then is fine, but like when you just get hit by it constantly, you're like, dude,
right,
have
yeah.
have some comprehension. Like,
Well, I really was going to take it so deathly seriously on my first playthrough that it really kind of ruined it because, what I really love about Dark Souls lore and narrative style is its minimalism. The fact that again, like back to the trope of you don't value what you don't earn, you have to go looking for the lore, and you only get scrapes and item descriptions, and you picking up random items at random times that paint a picture, and then you watch the 20-minute Vati videos after the fact, and they explain the shit to you. But for the most part, like that didn't help. And then what I was trying to get to with the Sekiro, anyways, like the mist nobles and the people who are in the divine realm, I'm butchering these names. I can't remember what they're actually called, but they're like you know, they have this effect where it's like another status effect that builds up, and once you get hit, it just makes you old and you can't move, and you just obviously are going to get killed because anything anything that hurts you, if it hurts you once, it's panic mode, and there is no getting out of it if you get hit twice. Like just about every attack in the whole game is a 1-2 punch for old Sekiro, in my experience. It's just you just you know again, I beat Ishin having used maybe one uh health potion, the from the gourd, from the healing gourd.
Yep.
Like even though I died 100 times before that, I had memorized his moveset so much that I didn't even need I didn't even need all my heals because he basically almost never hit me. Because if he hit me once, he was gonna hit me again. like so
Well, really, yeah.
but
I think like sometimes hit delay in that aspect is like sometimes makes it difficulty easier. Like if it like the mechanics where like you get hit no matter what, there's no like delay of next time you can take damage, like a invulnerability window. That's what it's called.
yeah, yeah, right,
Games
right,
that
right.
don't have that, boy, like some of them are really good. I'll
Yeah,
obviously
yeah.
Sekiro, but like so there's sometimes where you just play a game, you're like, dude, did I really just get hit 5 times in like 2 seconds? Like how am I
Yeah.
supposed to block that?
And honestly, like that's what in the best fights in that game, I think they are actually. I have changed my mind a little bit. Like I used to think that they were blatantly unfair. I don't really believe that anymore, given how much I stomped through Ishin's face, or so it felt, I went to the Demon of Hatred after that and just crushed him on the third try, which would never have happened in my first playthrough. Um, uh, but yeah, it's like there's a couple times where I noticed Ishin, or maybe it was even Genichiro, they have the perilous attacks, which are the big heavy hitting like red kanji sign
Yep.
that comes up, and then so that means you either have to jump or you have to dodge parry, which is like you can either dodge, like if it's a spear thrust of any kind, and you recognize that it's going to be a thrust. If you dodge toward the enemy, then he'll do the Makiri counter, which is anime badass
Yeah.
uh, stuff, and so he just like steps on it, makes homeboy look like a fool. And then the other one is he has like the wide sweep attack. And there's a couple times where I saw him do two perilous attacks back to back, and I was just kind of like, okay, come on, like you can't just like I can't do perilous attacks back to back. But anyway, other than that, it actually felt pretty fair. Now it was that inflated difficulty though that always seemed to make it silly, or like one example, another one that I think is you know inflated difficulty is putting Genichiro as the first phase of the Ishin fight. So Genichiro is the very first boss of the game. You have to fight him in the opening, and you're in a Souls in the FromSoft fashion. You're supposed to die, right? You can beat him, but then the only difference is that once you beat him, a flying star comes out of nowhere and you deflect it, but then he cuts your arm off anyway. So very first fight, you fight Genichiro, he spanks you and cuts your arm off, right? Then you fight Genichiro again about halfway through the game, and he's kind of a big he's a skill jump, right? You like to beat Genichiro, you have to have mastered the techniques that they've been teaching you up to this point. Like if and really it's like it's not actually that hard a fight. It didn't take me that many tries because if you've been focusing on parrying, like the game is essentially just taught you just literally rub salt right in those wounds time and time again. Like you should have been parrying up to this point, and if you're not, here's a forcing function, right? But then once you like start parrying Genichiro, it's actually, and you have his moveset memorized, he's not that hard. But then you have to fight him again as the first phase of Ishin, and I do still probably think that that's unnecessary, or even would have liked a whole other Genichiro fight again, right? Because it's like, on the one hand, I don't know, it's like I don't know, man. It's like I just don't know.
Well, it's like
On
it portrays it as like two boss fights, but instead it's like and one boss fight with 4 phases. I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, right. Yeah, I guess I don't understand how, because I'll see these rankings time and they'll rank Genichiro in that boss fight separate from Ishin, but I'm like, why? It's this, you have to beat Genichiro and it goes straight into Ishin because he literally crawls out of that dude's neck. Like it's not. There's no scenario uh, where you can't fight Genichiro before you fight Ishin. And so I don't know. At the same time, though, with the four phases and the fact that let's be honest, I beat his ass. Like
Yep.
I probably shouldn't criticize because I would not have the feeling of completion and like fulfillment that I do because I had to spank Genichiro and Ishin in four back to back phases.
Well, yeah, again, it's all about how you react in the end. Like again, Sekiro could be super awesome, like and like easier, and
Mm,
you feel satisfied when beating it. But they consider the fact that like gives you all this hard difficulty and everything like that. Now you just feel euphoric after beating it.
yeah,
So like it's like that little like it's that element of contrast. Like you don't know how good you have it until you get it, until you have something that's like the
yeah,
essence of that. So
yeah.
when you're just getting your ass kicked so often, then finally you win one, you're like, yes, I've
Right,
beaten it. And I think
right.
like for me, like the most challenging game I play is like Monster Hunter,
Yeah,
and I'm really far in Monster Hunter World. And
yeah.
when
Yeah.
I unlocked Rajang,
Oh God, I
he's
hear he's a monster, dude.
he
The
is
gorilla bull.
nuts. Like I use like at this point I use like 9 different weapons, but like my focus on sword and shield, and I can literally
Oof.
only beat him with a sword and shield because
Oh, right.
that's the
Nice, dude.
moveset I'm most familiar with. And
Yeah.
like the whole fight, I'm like panicking the whole time though because he just does not stop
Yeah.
hitting you, and you're like,
Oh, yeah.
oh stop, you're so
Yeah.
mean. And like I think the first time I did that hunt was with a buddy. We were hunting him, and like we he killed us twice, and I was like, ow, why, ow, like everything hurts. And we
Yeah.
finally beat him, and then like me and my friends like, Jesus, I need a freaking cigarette after that.
I
Good
know.
lord.
Dude. Gave you the big O, man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
oh, no, I totally understand that. That's it, and I appreciate Monster Hunter's boss fights because they are absolute testaments to endurance. Like they are long ass fights that you really have to work towards.
yeah,
But
Iceborne especially if you don't know what you're doing, like
yeah, dude.
I only average around like 15 minutes to 20 minutes, which is long for a fight, mind you. Like a lot of people, like most people are used to like boss fights lasting about 5 minutes.
In Monster Hunter, really?
Yeah, no. In like normal boss fights in
Oh,
other video games, like 5 minutes
yeah,
is
right.
all it's gonna take to beat a boss. And like Monster
Oh
Hunter, it's
no,
like
man.
you
Oh,
enter the game and you're fighting for just 20 minutes or like
or longer, dude. I mean, I've run right up against that 50-minute backstab a couple times. Now, I'm also in like low level Iceborne, which is probably why.
I think, but yeah, oh yeah, especially Iceborne because they increased the health a lot. I think in that game. Like, I just
Okay.
noticed that when I was playing it, I was like, man, it is taking way longer to kill this thing like it would in a high rank situation. And
Yeah.
I'm coming off like fighting Behemoth, where every time me and my buddy would be just 2-man Behemoth, we were always
Dude.
down to the wire because they shortened the mission time to 30 minutes for some
On
reason.
Behemoth? Oh
Yeah, on
god.
Behemoth, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, why did you do this? So
I never got him. I mean, I got him. I joined a quest in Weeb time, but I was not participating because he could still just one shot the hell out of me.
yeah, like it was just the two of us, and it was like we got it down to a science. I think we probably spent like a solid month of on and off playing, just trying to beat that dude. Like I got his armor before I actually killed him because my cat kept stealing his parts. And I was like, yes, I have his armor now. I still need
Oh
to
yeah,
beat his
right.
ass. And
Nice.
I think like it ended up with like he kept on running out the clock was the main issue for us. Or
Hmm.
we'd kill him, but he destroyed all the cover he generates for the comment while we
Oh.
were fighting him, so he would kill us as he died.
Oh
And we
my god.
and it happened 3 times. It
That's
was
what I
like
mean, man. Oh
I
god.
was so like, no, why would you do this to me?
Yeah.
And then finally, like we beat him once, and we're like, oh my god, we did it. We finally did it. And we went back and did it again and killed him immediately again. And we're like, yes, okay, it's down to a science. We can beat this man. He is not invincible. Like it wasn't a
Yeah.
fluke.
Seriously, yeah, that's where I mean, dude, I think Monster Hunter has the aptitude to get me to rage quicker than most games, though, just because you get in a cycle of getting punished, and it's I don't know, it's just frustrating.
I do no, like, I have moments like I try to be calm and collected when playing video games, but like even like some of the monsters in Monster Hunter, like Rajang just makes me panic, but
Oh
like
god, yeah.
Barioth makes me aggravated as fuck, dude.
Really?
Yeah, like I get super angry when fighting Barioth because it's not that he's hard, he just keeps hopping away from me. I'm like,
Yeah, no, I mean that's
dude.
yeah, that was my biggest. I beat Barioth and I guess single solo. He's like one of the guys that I actually ended up beating solo because nobody joined. I fired the SOS flare
Yeah.
on my assigned mission, but I just had to change my. I mean, you literally cannot get away with pulling out a combo with him most of the time. It's like I just had to do the whole spinning B move with the dual blades. That's a
Nice.
super obscure reference, but that like you can get in and out of combat really fast that way. So I'd like zip in, slash him once, and maybe hit him with like one Y, and then bounce like dodge
Yeah.
out with my iframes before he could swing around
I,
because he's
I
just so fast.
yeah, I had to use the bow to keep up with him, and like I could,
Oh yeah,
and like average time to kill him for me is like 22 minutes, but like
yeah,
that entire time, dude, I just get so angry. Like, stop hopping around. Like, and I know
yeah.
like breaking his claws will make him slide around when he's trying to jump around, therefore giving him more windows to
Oh really?
hit
Oh,
me.
that's cool.
So like
Yeah, no.
I was just aiming for that. Like, got him, and then like I don't know, like because especially they came out with an event quest like 50 Shades of White where it's just like solo the Barioth and you get tickets to make really cool looking weapons called the Guild Palace weapons. And I was like,
Oh no, those are dope, dude. Yeah, I saw the dual blades look amazing. They
yeah,
look like
I
gold.
made almost all of them.
Oh really?
But then
Nice.
I had to fight Barioth like 50 times. And
Oh
by the time I
god.
was done, like I never want to see this monster again.
Well, that's damn, dude. That's the weapon I was gonna go for. I didn't realize I had Barioth for it. That's a pain.
Yeah,
But I guess I mean that wouldn't be too big a deal. I'm a few levels ahead of him now. I
yeah.
did who's like the flame tail T
Lapis.
Rex. Is that who it is?
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
can't remember what his name is.
Jason.
Yeah, yeah. No, he's a cool boss fight. I thought that was
Oh
fun.
yeah.
I tend to like the brute wyverns are my favorite by far. I think.
Because they have good windows.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
I just completely beat Devil Joe into the ground on master rank, and so like,
Nice.
and I mean they kind of all share very similar kind of move variety, like based on what their their media their genre is. I can't remember the class,
Yeah.
the monster type or whatever.
They're yeah,
But
they're wyvern type or anything like that.
yeah, yeah. So
I
anyway,
like
yeah.
how like it's like there's all these wyverns and then Rajan comes in and it's like fanged beast and you're like, oh well that sounds scary.
That's it. I honestly, I just have this suspicion that Rajang is going to break me, and it's like I don't know if I want to open that can of worms just yet.
It's just like it's all about again. It's just like Sekiro, but not nearly to like the degree I think, where you just need to know what his moves are and how to avoid them.
Yeah,
And
right.
like for me,
Yeah,
it's like
that's fair.
sword and shield. Like I lets me roll out of literally anything. So like I just roll to dodge most of his attacks. I tried using the lance on him. I was like, I'll just parry all his punches, and
Yeah,
he got me up against the wall and showed me who my daddy was. So
yeah, I know, right.
I
Yeah.
was like, oh no.
I hear Rajang has some really tight turf war animations and stuff where he
Oh
just beat the living shit out of other monsters.
I think like yeah, when they first fought him, they purposely set it up where an Azure Rathlos flies in to like aggravate you, and then
Yeah.
Rajang just like gets into a turf war with him and like grabs the fly boy by the tail and just slams him into the ground.
It's like lightning monkey,
Yeah, and
like
you're just like, oh god.
oof,
And
yeah.
it's so bad that like the Rathlos just flies off afterwards, and he's like limping already. You're like, ooh. Yeah, I was
That's
like,
so funny.
it's like, geez, like that entire fight is awesome, but like, man, am I just panicking the whole time? And I'm thinking
Oh
like,
yeah.
I'll get this dude, and then like, I see people fighting him with like great swords and everything. Like, how do you like do that? Because the man
Yeah.
just never stops
Yeah.
attacking you.
Yeah. I don't know how you could possibly have the like is that even the longsword is like my that's one of my favorite weapons, but even that will be too slow sometimes where I feel like I can't get a hit in because I just get stuck in a cycle of getting trampled, you know.
Yeah, like oddly enough, like I think sword and shield next to dual blades is like the most flexible, fastest attacking weapon.
Yeah.
But
I should
yeah.
I should get back in. I got like I retried them again recently, the sword and board,
Hmm.
and it and just got stomped through the floor, and I can't remember who I was fighting, but it turned me off to sword and shield for the moment. But
Yeah, it's
you
like
know,
especially with the sword and shield, there's a lot of button inputs you got to do. It's almost like a fighting
yeah,
game. Not nearly as complicated, obviously, but like like getting into the perfect combo and then rolling out of it halfway to jump back and then jump back into it for another quick
Yeah,
burst of DPS. It's like that thing. You gotta remember stuff like that.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
very
No, I get you.
methodical with like you need to have this one combo you're always doing some
Yeah,
variation
yeah,
of.
yeah.
And
Well,
then
I mean, that's
yeah,
every weapon, but yeah, no, I understand because like the reason I chose the dual blades on this playthrough is because and I think it does reign true that it's the closest you'll get to playing Devil May Cry. It's like it feels really good,
yeah, it's really cool.
fast and angry.
Like speaking of like, I think because I recently jumped back into Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate on the Switch because like I wanted
Oh,
more
really?
I
Nice.
wanted more Monster Hunter. I didn't want to play head too far ahead of everyone else I was playing with. So I was like,
Get you some, you big nerd.
yeah, I'll play with this. And then I was just like, freaking, I'm playing it, and I'm like, oh man, this is so much slower than Monster Hunter World. Like Monster Hunter World, every weapon got a mobility upgrade.
Oh yeah,
The greatsword in Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate doesn't have a combo. You swing, and then it has a combo, but not the same combo you'd see like where you hit them 3 times. It's like you swing,
yeah,
then you slap, and then you can pull back and do a stronger attack like that, which is like
and
it's
that's
fine
it.
and all, but like it doesn't come out as quick, and
Yeah.
instead you most rely on more like you're just quickly sheathing the weapon and slashing, and like basically just hit and running with the greatsword, which is a totally different play style. The
Yeah.
lance
Good.
doesn't parry as fast, so you can't like parry the really like fast hitting attacks as quick as you could with like the lance in Monster Hunter World and things like that.
Mm.
And like for
Yeah.
me, who had been using all those weapons, like I'll do great in this game. I got freaking bodied by the first monster. I'm like, I'm trash. Like I am trash.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is a matter of like adapting to the like to all those different like aspects to that game because they're in the same genre, but I feel like they just play completely differently from one another.
Well, and they said that there's apparently there's a team in in the Capcom and the team that makes Monster Hunter. And I think with the based on a video, I don't know if this is going to be true or not, but that you have the A team working on Monster Hunter World, and they're saying that Iceborne is the last iteration, and so there's some projection and forward thinking as to who the what the next game is going to be in that main line. But I think the two teams are going to be pretty much separated based on handheld. Like one team is handheld and one team is going to be you know whatever the current gen iteration of Monster is going to be.
That's probably smart too, because again, like the generation, I wish Generation Ultimate would have some of the quality of life stuff that Monster Hunter World did,
Yeah,
but
right.
like having the old school feel, because again, like Monster Hunter World, the environment plays more into a factor of like your attacks and everything like that. Like you'll hop off
Mm.
walls, pick up ammo from the ground, drop environmental objects on them, all that stuff, and it helps out
Yeah, yeah,
tremendously. In Generations Ultimate, it's just you and the monster at this point. Like you have ledges you
yeah,
can like hop off of and do like a jumping attack from, but like for the most part, it's just wide arenas, you mano a mano with the monster, and
yeah, right.
like figuring out how you're gonna like beat them. And
Well, and
it's actually a completely
yeah,
different type of play style almost. Like again, tying this into difficulty, like especially with Monster Hunter World, there's more opportunities to cheese environmental objects to do like different damages. You can wrap
oh,
people in the walls,
absolutely,
stuff
yeah.
like that.
Oh
Walls
yeah,
are
wall run up and turn into
a freaking like blade
a
tornado.
butterfly. Yeah, yeah, right, exactly.
And then with a monster in like the no and old Monster Hunter, it's just you got to remember your move set, where your windows of dodging are, what your
Hmm.
enemies like, how the enemy turns around. Like because again, like all the monsters move way slower in Monster Hunter World in comparison to
Yeah.
like World.
Oh really?
No, in Monster Hunter World they move way faster in comparison to like the old
Oh, and
games. The
generations.
old
Yeah,
games they purposely have like large gaps and openings after attacks that you
yeah,
can exploit and hit with because again like your movement isn't as quick either. So anything that moves over to World gets an upgrade in movement. Like Rajang is one of those where some people don't like it the fact that he literally has like microsecond openings for you to exploit unless you're like dual blazer sword and shield where you can just like stay on his ass and hit him. But
yeah.
yeah, like in like the old Monster Hunter, I haven't ran into him yet because there's like 129 large monsters in that game. So
Wow.
it's
No,
like
that's crazy.
yeah, I haven't ran into him yet, but like I think I saw a video
Well,
like he would do an attack and he would be literally standing still for like 3 seconds. You're like, oh, I got this, bam, kind of thing. So
yeah. Well, I want. I mean, I only got my foot in the door with Monster Hunter World because of the quality of life changes. I feel, I'd played old Monster Hunters a couple times. Like, I bought one for the DS, but just never could get into it because
Oh yeah, like it's
just
definitely it is a much more alienating factor with that, and I feel like it comes down to just the limitation of the controls. Like, so a lot of
yeah,
people say
yeah,
Monster Hunter World is way easier than the old Monster Hunters because,
yeah,
again, like your all the weapons are more agile. There's more things you can do with the environment that make it do stuff, and again, like people just think it's easier because of that. Especially quality of life changes don't make it as like tedious to get items.
yeah.
Like,
Well, I just don't believe in. I just don't understand making the same iteration of the same game over and over with a different varnish. Like, and I know that's maybe an unfair generalization, but like, look at all these games nowadays. Like, I think Xbox first party is so bad about this. Like, look at Gears 5, right? Don't get me wrong, Gears 5 is a beautiful game. Beautiful, right? It's well optimized, obviously, and as a technical show, it's great. Like, it looks beautiful and all that, and it runs really well. But it is 100% about the same as the gameplay from the very first game in 2006. Like, what has actually changed in the way that that whole game controls? It's the same cover system that it's always been, the same as Uncharted was, and the same as the Division 2 is. And it's like there's nothing about that game that's really modern or changing it up. And like, what I can say I appreciate about a game like Sekiro,
yeah,
like they could have made a Japanese Bloodborne, or like the feudal Japan Bloodborne iteration, right? Bloodborne, but at the same time, like Bloodborne gets so much credit because it iterates not a whole lot, but enough to be distinctive off of the Dark Souls formula, right?
it's
And
innovative.
then like, yeah, right, and like even Dark Souls 3 does the same. It's like you have to stay modern and like make something. And so that quality of life is like hopefully a you know a, an inevitability going forward. Like, I don't believe in kind of this sort of sacred gameplay loop if it's dated. It's like building the next Fallout game. This is separate too, but Todd Howard, they asked him in an interview if the Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be on the same engine, and he said yes, as
Oh god.
Fallout 76, and he said yes, and it's like, what's the matter with you guys? Like, what? Like, I couldn't believe that. I was like, dude, that's literally the same as the Skyrim engine, which is only a small iteration on the Oblivion engine, which is again a small iteration on the
Morrowind.
Morrowind engine. It's like, dude, we're playing a 20-year-old game with a nice varnish, and it's like, and I guess because I wanted to talk about Final Fantasy 7 at some point. Like, I'm hoping that's what the combat system looks like in Final Fantasy 7, because it looks like a modern interpretation. You couldn't just have the same old Final Fantasy VII fight scheme and expect a whole new generation of people to pick it up and really enjoy it. I think, and maybe you can speak more of this because like you have, did you play, like, you played 12, 13,
Okay, so I have played 7, 8, 9, 10, a little bit of 11, but I never actually got far in that one. 12, I didn't really get far in 12 either. 13, I beat, and then 14, I really want to get into that, but I just don't have the commitment to pay monthly to play it.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then 15, I got towards the end. I really need, but then all the DLC came out, and I was like, I'm probably just gonna wait till everything is out to play it, and I still haven't picked it up again. But I
yeah,
enjoyed it. But no, yeah, literally the three games that were most similar to one another were 7, 8, and 9, because they all
yeah,
used the basic ATB system. 10 was
yeah.
turn based. 11 was an MMO. 12 went kind of like it was ATB, but you're walking around, and then like
With the van and
yeah,
yeah, that little guy.
and a lot of your combat was and it was automated, but it's like essentially you're programming robots to fight. So you had a bunch of different gambits of like situations of like you can customize your AI behavior. Like your health drops to 10%, someone will heal you,
Yeah,
kind of thing.
right.
And like it was that's a it's fun in a different way where like you're moving around, but it's all just flavor for you doing the attacks essentially.
Yeah,
And like once you have enough gambits set up correctly, you can just watch everyone fight everything, and then like it's like watching your minions go out and kill things. So like that was
yeah,
interesting, but like again, I wasn't really feeling it. I think like yeah, again, 7, 8, and 9 just had different methods in which they did the ATB system. 7
yeah,
was your like bread and butter, like you had all these actions and like you had materia to modify your actions. that's how
Mhm.
it all functioned together. And then 8 was you had you had the draw system where you drawed magic and attached it to certain abilities and make them stronger, which is really cool in theory, but like it got dragged down a lot because you can really only draw from enemies, and upon doing that, like you'd have to waste turns just drawing magic while they beat you in the face,
Yeah.
and like you'd have to grind real hard to get the really good stuff, and
Hey,
it got really annoying.
and I might not have the right, like, I might not be entitled to this opinion, but I think the number one reason why those games turned me off is because their combat systems felt anachronistic, and with varying degrees of success, I guess, like you'd say, there's parts of it, but
Well, I mean, it would be better if those games were harder because those games aren't hard at all.
yeah,
Majority of the fights you can do in 7, you just hit attack most of the time,
yeah,
and it's
but
pretty
at the same time,
pointless.
like sevens, like that's different, right? Any of the games that came out on the PS1, and like the depth of the combat in those games is compared to their peers in the same time and on the same system. Like their combat systems definitely hold up, and I consider them modern and appropriate and perfect for the type of game that they're trying to make, like this. Like I was watching the videos about Final Fantasy VII, the remake, and how like the original Final Fantasy VII did 100% like change the game for RPGs, and arguably made RPGs mainstream in the video game space right then and there. Like
A lot of
now,
diehard Final Fantasy purists will say 6 was the real one that did it.
okay, yeah,
But I mean, like, I mean, 6 is good. Don't get me wrong. I love that. I love
yeah,
that game. But again, like
right.
7 is my baby, so I'm always gonna be
But
like
it's like,
7 is the best.
but there's plenty of other games nowadays that are made that have turn-based combat, right? It's not the actual, the type of combat that system that you're implementing. It's not like every turn-based combat game feels anachronistic. Now, I don't prefer turn-based combat because it's just not. I like dynamism, and I like. I just also didn't grow up on it, and I think that has a lot to do with it. But
Yeah.
there's other games that have come out that are. What's that game? Is it Pillars of Eternity? I can never remember which one's the one that's like the turn-based RPG that's getting a ton of praise.
Not Pillars of Eternity is good, but I think most of the praise is Divinity.
Divinity Originals. I
Yep.
can't. Yeah, that's right. Divinity Original Sin 2 is getting so much, and then like that's an old school RPG, man. That looks like it's not
See,
but it fits the
see
medium it's in.
the thing with the original Sin though is that it has an active, more proactive turn-based system. Like a lot of the Final Fantasy all old turn-based systems in general depended on your preparation before the battle.
Yeah,
Like all your abilities in Final Fantasy VII were there to make you super strong, but you had to like grind out and like buy certain things and do certain
yeah,
combinations to make such abilities happen. In
yeah,
Divinity Original Sin 2, you get your skills by buying them. You just straight up just buy them with money and learn them. However, how you
yeah,
use said skills with that turn-based system is how you would work it. And then Final Fantasy X did this in a way too, where like how you use your magic and the spheres and everything like that, and how you build your character that way, and how you would like use the actual turn-based system they had going, and how you would abuse
yeah.
that, played a large part in how you won.
Right.
Divinity Original Sin 2 does that a lot too, where like, hey, you're outnumbered and outgunned, but those guys are standing in a large puddle of water and you have lightning spells.
Or blood, right? You can
Yeah,
like electrify blood from the guys you've already killed, and
yeah,
it's like that's pretty cool.
and
But
that's makes it
I
much
I
more
just think
proactive in that aspect, where like you
with
had to think of what you can do with your abilities rather than having a set combo you do with your abilities all the time.
well, like with regard to the Final Fantasy stuff, though, I think an example of how this played out is like why was Kingdom Hearts' combat, and I don't know, maybe you can speak more about this. Kingdom Hearts has a dynamic combat system that's fundamentally different from how Final Fantasy was traditionally played. But I think I loved Kingdom Hearts, and I think a lot more casual people played it because it just had this. It wasn't even all that complex or nuanced compared to like like Kingdom Hearts 2 and Devil May Cry 3 have very different fighting systems, right?
Yes.
And like you could argue that maybe Devil May Cry 3 might have a more stylish one at some points, or it's like or it's obviously more kinetic and has a very different attitude. But like what the combat system does, it's not all that complicated. But when you're fighting the thousand man army with Cloud in Hollow Bastion in the Kingdom Hearts 2, like that is a perfect perfect marriage of the combat system that game has, the RPG elements, and the story, and just like the iconography, right? Like when you see Cloud Strife in a video game, what you want that dude is to smash people with his Buster Sword and do his cool jumps, and it's like the if you're not experiencing like I don't know, I feel this like you're showing me cinematics and stuff and all this cool awesome anime like uh crazy like fight scenes, like it's like going from watching Advent to then playing Final Fantasy 13. You're like, what? Like, why am I not even seeing a little bit more of what's supposed to be happening? Like, why is it not guiding my imagination just a little bit more? And I can forgive the new, I guess in the new Final Fantasy 7, there's not a jump button, right? And it's like, I remember how much of a thing they were making about having a jump button in The Witcher 3, right? Do you really think the jump button does The Witcher 3 any real justice? Like, what does that do for you?
No, that game's
Like,
broken.
yeah,
That game's broken without it. What are you talking about?
it's like, oh wow, you can mount the fences now. It's like, if you just had like mountable geometry, it'd essentially do the same thing. Never need a jump button, but and I guess there's competing arguments for both. But I'd much rather prefer like a really solid, down to earth like combat system that fulfills the needs of the game that you're playing, not like, not like, um, I don't know, just commitment to tradition or
I think
support.
so. I think also, it's not only like the systems themselves; it's the game that's designed around the systems. Like again,
Yeah,
7 has a possibility of like you can use all your things like experimentally and like with strategy if the enemy encounters were harder. The only issue is
yeah,
that the enemy encounters aren't very hard, and you can muscle through everything just by having one dude cast cure the whole time while the other two guys attack.
yeah.
Like
Well,
the
and that's what I'm saying. I think the new iteration of the combat is so much more attractive, and no, I don't like not more attractive necessarily, but worthy of the icon, like worthy of the Final Fantasy VII name in the modern era. Like,
yeah,
because if everything was exactly the same, like with what we've seen in the imagery, like the trailers and stuff, and how cool they look, and all the cinematics look really great, and the models look really pretty. But then you're like, oh, by the way, it's just a conventional turn-based RPG, just like the first one was. Yeah, you might play it, but I would probably never play it.
that's true. But
Um,
I think, and I'm like, I remember when it was first announced that it wouldn't be totally turn-based. A lot of people got pissed off because like, well, I want the old FF7 back, just better graphics. And it's like,
I
for
I
me,
don't think people know what they want,
yeah,
dude. I
that
think people are just
that
so petty
like for
stuff.
some reason that just seems lazy to me. Like I would have been lazy. Like plus, there's already mods out there. You can just play Final Fantasy 7 and buy and get mods
Yeah, right.
that make the
Well, and
game
how?
entirely different in graphical like capability.
Yeah, yeah.
And
No, for sure.
for me, it's like again, it's like especially with the hyper realism they're going, the quote unquote hyper realism with the graphics and everything like that that they're going for with that. Having that as turn-based combat would just feel like it would take you out of the world.
Right. That's I guess what I'm trying to get at. It
Yeah,
feels like it would just take you out of the
and again,
experience.
I know more immersion, but like things like that, like really affect your gameplay experience. Like the way they do it
Yeah,
now
yeah,
is that they have an auto mode where you can let Cloud run around and attack, and then when you build up your ATB gauge, you can shoot up magic. It's like a compromise where the people who wanted a turn-based experience can kind of have it that way. And
yeah.
but if you
Right.
switch to auto mode, it switches the game automatically to easy mode though, because again,
Mm,
the game has been designed around you being more active with the combos and like moving around positioning and everything like that. However,
yeah,
the option is there for you to be like, traditional ATB. And let's face it, the original Final Fantasy VII was just easy in general.
yeah.
Like
Right. And
so,
I appreciate
yeah,
that they're just making it more like I don't necessarily. You're not going to make everybody like you're never going to be able to make every single person happy. And the comments are always way inflated and incendiary and being like, "Oh, it's not the same experience," or yada yada.
but
But
generally,
at
like
the same time,
people
you
who
got
are
to
more
be
incensed tend to speak more. So yeah,
yeah, right. But I'm so not in the mood, and I feel like they probably aren't either. It's like I'm sure Miyazaki hearing from people saying, "Oh, Sekiro needs an easy mode," and he's just over here like, the
Yeah,
people don't know what they want.
yeah.
You know? like trust the auteurs and shut up and color.
I think it's that aspect of like people people just need to basically. I was gonna say people just need to sometimes accept a creator's like vision in that aspect, and like
Yeah,
again, like we could say what we want all the time, but reality, we want what people. Well, I can't speak for everyone, but like what a lot of people actually want is just to be surprised by someone else's creative vision.
yeah,
And
right.
the thing you can never say about the remake is that they're not putting any effort into it,
Yeah, true beans.
because like that
That's for
game
sure.
looks amazing. Again, it's what kind of went like I saw the fact that they released the opening movie, and I was like, I'm gonna watch this, and I was about to click on it, and I was like, you know what? No, I'm going to just wait until the game comes out and just let the nostalgia drown me, because I'm a
Yeah,
sucker
I
for
got
that
you.
kind of thing. And so, like for
Yeah,
me, I saw the combat system, I saw how it's gonna play, I saw the character designs. I'm like, we're good to go. I need nothing else. I just need to wait for the game to come out. And
yeah,
like I know some people don't agree with the fact that it's gonna be multiple parts, but for me, especially since how I write is just details upon details. The fact that they're going into the original game and just adding more details into the world with like few things that like flesh out the story.
yeah,
I'm all for it, because again, I just love that aspect of things. So some people might find it to be bloaty. I love it.
yeah.
So
Well, let me hit you with some because like I've been doing some research just today because I'm a hype slut. Uh, so you know, one I think people were really worried that it was going to because like I guess the first Midgar section in the first game is about 6 hours, give or take, depending on how long it takes you. Not actually very long, and so people were
uh,
worried there would be
I don't know. You're
an
talking
in,
about 7-year-old me did that in solid 15 hours.
yeah, right. But anyway, like the idea is that they were worried. A lot of people were worried it was going to be a pretty a linear and minimalist experience. Like, the gameplay looks tight, and they showed the first boss, the Scorpion guy, and like that looks really cool. But they were like, well, what if this is just a 10-15 hour game? Like that would be pretty sad. And especially when they say they're cutting into 3 parts, you're like, oh well, now we're f. Then they just released the download file size. Got leaked, and it's 100 gigabytes across 2 layered Blu-ray PS4 discs, which is pretty badass
That's
as far as
enormous.
like
That's
what you're telling
bonkers.
me. Right. So and basically,
That's twice as big as Final Fantasy 15.
oh yeah, dude, it's as big as Red Dead Redemption 2. And unless they just have HD textures galore, it's still a 15-hour game. Like
Yeah.
I can't. I don't think that can be it
I'm
though.
waiting for
It's like
90 gigs of this. It's just the skyboxes.
I know. Yeah, the skybox. Yeah, yeah, the skybox in Cloud's eyes.
Yeah. Like literally,
uh,
like you see a sprawling metropolis, you can't go anywhere. But
yeah,
man, does all this
but
take up a ton
man,
of
does it look
memory.
pretty. Yeah, right. Well, I guess I didn't know this, but the little bit of trivia for the 3 discs required to run the original Final Fantasy were mostly dedicated to cinematics and not actual gameplay at all. Like the actual raw gameplay only took up about it was like a few megabytes. Like I can't remember how many exactly, but the 3D renders of the cinematics were actually what was so taxing and why they needed 3 discs
I
to
mean, that
to
makes
run that game,
sense,
which is funny.
especially because they freaking ramped it up in 8 and 9, where like their CGI was actually to me at least it holds up to this day. Like
Yeah,
if I saw
yeah, I
that, like I'd
mean,
be like, well, this looks cheap, but man, this still looks pretty good. Like
yeah, right. I mean, it's a concept render in blue.
yeah,
It's like it's pretty cool. But
sevens. I will say sevens 3D cinematics, however, are hilarious. It's like,
yeah, yeah.
oh my god, like especially Tifa. It's like, oh Jesus Christ. She has balloons. I mean, those are just
Oh
straight up
yeah,
balloons. I can't tell you any
straight
more than
up,
that.
dude. I guess yeah, people were upset about that too. As the boob physics weren't maintained uh,
Oh,
from
whatever.
the.
Like again,
But it's like, dude,
I mean,
she's like,
full disclosure,
come on.
yeah, they're smaller, but I'm like, I'm all about the proportions, and she has
Let's not get.
proportions.
Yeah, that's a weird, random thing to get hung up around the axe. Like
I think
especially.
it's just the nature of the culture these days, where
Oh
like
yeah,
any
any
quote
change at all?
unquote
Yeah,
censorship will
yeah,
basically make people like push back against it, because again, it's especially with Japanese games. There's a lot of Western like outrage that tries to get Japanese games to change or censor them stuff. Like translation teams themselves will take it
Yeah,
upon themselves to alter the meaning of the original Japanese text when they're translating it to make it more friendly for Western audiences, and
yeah.
that just strikes
It
me as
can't be healthy.
super
Yeah,
arrogant and terrible. Like, don't do that. That's
yeah, right. Well, it's like
yeah,
I do want to respect, and that's like really the accessibility argument that I'm getting to. Like, I understand the criticism like of games that don't have accessibility in the same way that other games do, right? If it becomes mainstream or is expected, like, it's really what I mean. We make the landscape, right? It's not like there are no hardline rules about art, and there really shouldn't be. It's like we all get to agree on what's tasteful and what's not, and generally society can be trusted, I believe, to censor themselves. Like, for instance, we don't have in almost I well hope not anyway. Don't correct me if I'm wrong, but like I can think of no game where you can kill children. Like GTA exists, and so many dark games exist, and like there's games where children,
Fallout 2.
okay, yeah, but
Yeah.
like modern games, like that's just a
Well,
no no, right? You
it's
just
not
like
like you like killing children in a super visceral and like barbarous way. I guess we'll
yeah,
to
right,
further specify that like you can't straight up
yeah, right.
torture a child. Like, good lord. Like,
Yeah, it's not like it is. It's that's one of those like limiting factors. Now, like I don't know, maybe this is not the right vein to go down to defend the whole accessibility argument, but like I do. The idea is like whether that's the ownership or the accountability of the artist and the game maker, the dev, or like the Miyazaki, for instance. Like you can criticize Sekiro for not having the same accessibility commitments as like Fallen Order, right? Fallen Order has like an easy mode and stuff. But at the same time, like if you're trying, he should have some, he has artistic license,
yep.
right? And the experience that he's trying, he can't literally make a game for everyone, and that can't be his responsibility. And if it is, it's maybe just too, um, it's too much responsibility. Like what it's the public, it's the discourse's right to talk through that stuff and debate it and compromise on it and say, hey, next time, like,
Well,
you know,
again, like I'm all about like variety is the spice of life, and I just want games
yeah,
to be all like very distinct from one another. I don't want it to be the
yeah, sure,
Ubisoft syndrome where all the games, no matter what era they take place in, always feel the same. Like For Honor feels exactly the same as Ghost Recon. Not
yeah,
Ghost, yeah, Ghost Recon Wildlands. Like the games are fundamentally different in their gameplay and in their like aesthetic. However, the graphical tone, like the tone to each of the graphics, feels the same. The
yeah,
menus look almost identical,
yeah,
and like I just don't want games to do that where like it all like, bleeds into this one amorphous mass. And I
yeah,
think
right.
Western games in general, and like Western games have been going down that trend, and I'm not a fan of it.
Oh no,
Um,
not at all. And it's like the epidemic of passable games,
mhm.
right? And similar to the way movies have been kind of infested with censorship, literally with Chinese censors coming in and saying, okay, well, the Marvel movies can say this, they can't say this,
You can't have the
you know.
bad guy in the poster
Yeah,
because
and they can't kiss, or like these these two girls can't kiss in the Chinese version or something like that. It's like, okay, listen. Well, and that's part of why I saw in video earlier. It says we take Ubisoft for granted, and I'm like, do we? It's like I know there's plenty of games that people like and people are passionate about, For Honor or Siege, Rainbow Six Siege, or like people saying that Assassin's Creed Odyssey is like a really good, awesome open world and comparable to The Witcher 3. And it's like I and I just I understand that I understand that they're good in the sense of like if we want to measure them for the sum of their parts, right? They're passable games, like,
oh no, like
but at the same,
what maintains Ubisoft's staying power is the fact that all their games are not utter trash.
right?
like
Like they're
like their games
exactly, yeah,
like their games are passively fun to play.
yeah, right. And I'm not, and like I've gotten more out of some than others, like Black Flag was a favorite of mine, and Assassin's Creed 2 was a good one, and um I I believe that they're absolutely like within target radius of making a great game, of an exceptional functional experience. Like if you take the technology they already have, like the and can be used in so many ways to make functional games. Like people still like the Division and Wildlands and like some of these other games, but at the same time, like we talked about before, comparing Odyssey to The Witcher is just not even close
Yeah.
to the same kind of tonal consistency, the writing, the kind of the synergy between character and quest and your experience overall. Like even though Odyssey has some very objectively better aspects to the game, like the boat, like the ship segments in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, I think are really fun and an awesome value add to the experience. I think that the traversal, the Assassin's Creed parkour traversal that they've been honing for this whole generation, or for two generations at this point, really works in an open world game like that, where you can literally just explore vertically, like you can explore horizontally. Like I think literally look at what Zelda did. Zelda picked up a lot of that stuff, I would argue, from Assassin's Creed. The tower, the tower
The
mechanic
Ubisoft
was
Towers mechanic. Yeah.
right. Yeah. Like Ubisoft were the guys who started that trend, and now a bunch of other people are taking their lead, but also using it, I think, to better success.
Yes.
I don't, I was telling you the other day, I want, if there's a Witcher 4 in the making, I want it to have a better vertical traversal
Definitely.
option. And I don't know what that looks like given the context of who Geralt is. And it's not like that dude could just shimmy up the the small rocks in the wall.
No, dude. Like, if you, I mean, this is a cinematic, obviously, but if you watch the opening cinematic for the first Witcher, he straight up just parkours up a wall.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, and you're like,
Oh,
oh,
yeah.
okay, I wish I could do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and maybe that. Yeah, maybe that. Like look at Sekiro. I think one of the biggest strengths and the most fun I had in exploring Sekiro's world is the verticality that they let you have.
I
Like
mean, like if you want to make any open world better, just give it a grappling hook.
seriously,
Yeah.
you like look at Uncharted 4, grappling hook.
Yep, grappling hook.
Far Cry 4, grappling hook.
Yeah.
Uh, um, Sekiro, grappling hook.
Like
But
surprisingly, Breath of the Wild doesn't have a grappling hook.
dude, Breath of the Wild 2 is gonna have a free
It better.
bet right now, $10. Homeboy is gonna have a grappling hook.
I'll rate
And
you. I'll do you one better. He's gonna have 2 grappling hooks.
well, we should speculate. Yeah, I have a bet with another guy. I guess I don't know if I have a bet with him, but my my prophecy about that Breath of the Wild sequel that's apparently coming is that they flood half the map and they introduce sailing
Ooh,
because they haven't done a callback to Wind Waker.
yeah.
Um,
I mean,
and
the Rito are just a whole callback to Wind Waker, but like,
yeah, I just mean like in terms of
terrain wise, yeah.
terrain traversal, whatever. And the idea is like, again, they're obviously learning from the best and the brightest in the business. And we talked about this. Where like my favorite thing to see is when games learn and innovate and iterate off of each other. And like some people call that plagiaristic or something like that. And I think that's annoying. Like everybody's trying to learn and get better, and you're trying to make the best game possible. And so when I see Zelda use vertical traversal and the towers to good effect, like why would that be a criticism? Like if it ain't broke and it works, like it definitely works for that game anyway.
Yeah.
So why? So like I can see totally that they might introduce a boat of some kind and do the sailing thing like they have, and mixed with the same, like in the same engine as Zelda Breath of the Wild, because I think that'd just be a beautiful mix.
Yeah, it might be because I just played Wind Waker so much when I was like little. It was like one of the first games I beat by myself without my brother's help.
Yeah.
When I was like 10. Yeah, but like I think it's because of that. Every time I get into an ocean section with a ship, I'm like, yes. There might
No,
be
dude, I
nothing to do
literally
here,
always.
but I will like always be excited.
That's why Black Flag. That's why Black Flag is still one of my favorite Assassin's Creed to date, because
Dude,
because
the
it,
ship
like the sailing is
mechanic is just
great.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I feel like that world in Black Flag 2 is just bigger than most of the other Assassin's Creed games.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, and the thing that I hate about, I don't hate it about Odyssey, but like the one disappointing thing, I love the ship combat, but it's like I just hate that I'm have to use this old Greek ship that's only shooting arrows and throwing javelins. You're like, and then you're making ships explode. kind of like
exploding by getting hit by arrows.
it's like yeah, by literally, and you have like some fire doesn't again it just is laughable,
Yeah,
and whereas like the Black Flag stuff made a lot more immersive sense.
right.
Everybody remembers Pirates of the Caribbean or like seeing Master and Commander and watching like chain shot like spiraling towards your mast. You're like, oh god, like it's awesome. It's all I want.
Yeah, dude. Kingdom Hearts 3, the Pirates Caribbean world. It
Yeah.
gives you a ship, and you're like, yes, oh yes, and then it's just it's basically Black Flag all over
Yeah,
again.
right.
And I'm just over here like, with like, it's you have magic on your ship now, so like you like throw your ship into the air and use it as a battering ram as you're like launching at dudes. I'm like, this is
Jeez.
anime as hell, but I love
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
And
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
I just like, again, gaming companies like learning from other systems is always awesome, and I feel like with the whole like, again, like as long as they're innovating on it, not like a direct copy and paste, it's great. Because
Yeah.
again, like I wouldn't have that excitement playing the Pirates Caribbean section if it was just another world where I ran around and went from map to map hitting things. Like
Yeah, like
it's not nearly as exciting as like, uh, hey, you're in a sea themed world and you get to explore the sea. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, exactly.
and like aspects like that are always good. Where like I'm fans of both having options and having depth.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like
Yeah, true.
like a lot of like RPGs do that for me. At least old school RPGs do that for me, and like modern day RPGs need to step their game up with that aspect.
Well, honestly, I just want the Sekiro like controls and system in a game outside of the Sekiro world, and more like what if, hear me out, fan fiction time. What if Sekiro was on a ship and it was like you had all the same effects, but you could also just be exploring the open ocean? That would be awesome.
That'd
You
be
get it.
so
You
cool.
take your grappling hook is a quick trip up to the crow's perch. Like honestly, I played a little bit of Sea of Thieves with some buddies because I'm on Game Pass, and I think that game. I love everything about that game except for playing it. Like I think controlling. I think that game has the most dog shit input feedback that I have seen in a video game. It's like they designed it to be unfun, and I get that that's my problem, right? I get it. I get that that's like you can talk about how it's maybe more oriented for like children, or maybe got it's meta or something like that. But I it like what I've learned about this last generation most recently. Red Dead. Like Red Dead gets so much credit. Last of Us is another example. Those two games get so much credit, and are sitting at 97 Metacritics because their writing is good, not because their gameplay is good. Like
Yeah.
Last of Us and Red Dead are both only passable games, and they're games from a generation gone by that just like uh, right that like the gameplay supports to good enough effect like the story, and the story is obviously the highlight, and it's what people play those games. But at the same time, like how it feels to play Red Dead and accidentally punch somebody in the face when you just meant to get on, like that's not great design.
Yeah, like I think
And like
yeah, with Red Dead especially, like I enjoyed the immersive aspect of the game for the first 2 hours, and after that I was like, dude, I just want to pick up
like
the item and
I
like
just want
have
to
it appear.
buy, yeah, like exactly, I just want to buy the shit. Like I don't have to pick up the can stupid in the stupid store and look at it. It's like
Yeah, the first time I did it, I was like, this is badass. I love this game. This is gonna be
I
so fun.
know, right?
Third time, I was like, oh.
Yeah.
And I think yeah, it's like a blending of like we probably elaborate this on a future podcast, but like just how far into realism do you want to go before you're like,
Yeah.
alright, let's add some gaming elements to this just so like people can have
Right.
fun with it. Like
Well, it's like when did games start adding a food requirement? Like, why would I want to do that? Like, why would I want to have to eat? And uh,
you
I
know,
like
if
limited
if your
immersion.
game was like designed around around survival, then yeah, it makes sense. But like if you're like,
Yeah,
oh yeah, you're just living in the Wild West, so make sure you eat or you'll die. Like what?
yeah.
Like
I
I
don't.
would assume that my character would just eat when I'm not playing, maybe because he seems like a sensible guy. He probably knows what he's doing. Like
It's like, and there's yeah, right, and it's more than just that. It's a lot of
yeah,
with those games. Like both, both games I love dearly. Like, don't get me wrong, I love both of those games a lot. But you know, at the same time, like look at Doom. Doom Eternal is about to come out, and
mm-hmm.
everybody's just talking about how excellent and tight the gameplay loop is, and how completely refined and intuitive and nuanced it is, despite it being like loosely gore porn. It's like I guess the way that the devs talk about it is it's fast or it's junk food. Like at the lowest level, it's junk food, but we want it to be we want it to be like junk food that's good for you, where it's like
It's
we're
vegan
trying to
friendly.
push you in a direction to where it's more fun, right, and less like and I appreciate that, man. It's like that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to build a system that works. Like Zelda works because it's just got such a refined systemic
I mean,
appeal.
it's like I played Doom 2016 and I loved it, and like
Yes, yeah,
the writing itself wasn't actually terrible either because again they kept it
yeah,
simple.
yeah,
It's like
yeah,
Doom guy's
yeah,
pissed because they're using devil energy, so therefore he's gonna take action. It's like perfect. I don't need
yeah.
any more. I don't need any more depth to this Doom story.
And if it's there
And
if you want, it's
yeah,
like
they even had it
minimalism
there
there.
too
But
because they had like an entire story of the I forgot what they were called, the Night Sentinel, or whatever they're called, and
yeah,
how
right.
they were keeping order on a planet until they had a betrayer who wanted to revive his son. However, when the demons revived the man's son, they brought him back as a demon, and
Yeah,
the man was forced to kill his own son, and therefore he was shunned by his own people, but also hates the demons, and like that's like just lore in the background, and actually really awesome. Like that's a really compelling story to just either hear about or witness for yourself. And well, meanwhile, like the entire game, you're like, I'm running around punching demons and ripping their eyes out. It's like,
yeah, right.
yeah,
When I let's be honest, I play that game as Warhammer role play anyway. So,
I mean,
but
it fits. It's like
yeah,
it's not quite 40K, but you're getting there almost. Yeah,
oh, I mean, no, it literally is 40K if you want it to be. Like,
true.
it's like Demons of Slanesh just by the bucket full.
And it's like
you know?
I think there's hints that like the Doom guy you're playing as in Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal is actually the Doom guy from the original games. It's just that
Mm,
something happened that made him hop dimensions to
mm,
where scientists are using the occult to get energy. And
yeah.
again, he's having none of it, and it's like a lot of the trailers, like
Hey,
a lot of the trailers, are like, why are you even here? and
yeah.
and
I
you're just going
dude,
like, I'm just beating ass. I'm just gonna
I
shoot this
know,
guy.
right? Yeah, it's like I do appreciate I appreciate what Doom Eternal is doing in terms of just like that that apparently what everybody's saying is that gameplay loop is just airtight. They just cannot get enough of it.
Well,
So I'm really
it's
excited to give it a
Doom, but even more mobile. Like
try. Yeah, right.
I saw the mobility
And
options.
what did they give him? What did they give him? What did they give him? A grapple hook.
Yep.
They gave him a grappling hook.
Not only a grapple hook. Okay,
and it,
it's a grapple hook on a shotgun. Let's
oh, can I add to this list of features that no one has ever been hurt by in video games?
okay. What's up?
This might be a more contentious one. A double jump.
Oh, oh boy.
I have never been hurt by a double jump
Yeah.
in a game, and I've always loved them. And especially if you have any kind of platforming whatsoever, I just I don't know.
Like oddly enough, you know how like all these games back when this gen launched, they always tried doing alternate movement mechanics. Like Call of Duty did a shit ton of those, where
Yeah, oh yeah,
Advanced Warfare you could dash through the air, and then like with that what was their space game? Was that Advanced Warfare? Or was I don't know. It
yeah,
became
man.
confusing, but like
Yeah,
and
seriously.
eventually they all just abandoned them and went back to Modern Warfare and like World War II.
Yeah,
Because
right.
people like just couldn't like they just weren't catching on. Meanwhile, Doom's over here like, no, we're going all in on this because I think in Doom Eternal, like you not only can you double jump from the get go, but eventually I think I saw a dude like he jumped into the air and he dashed like 3 times side to side in the air
Yeah.
to avoid attacks, and I'm like, oh, they're just going all in on this. I love it.
Well, it's like, but dude, that's again, people criticize Call of Duty for having the mobility mechanics. Like the advanced warfare and stuff. But like that can't be the only side of the story though, because look at Titanfall. Titanfall has a double jump and all of the same
Wall run.
mobility mechanics, but Titanfall 2 is still regarded as one of the best shooters out there. And I definitely agree with that. I think Titanfall 2 is it's still one of my favorite
I have that on
single player.
PS4, and I need to play a single player mode.
It is. It truly is really, really good.
Yeah.
And it's just. But that's what I mean. It's like it's all they focus. They double down on the mobility. It's all double jumps and wall runs, and it works because that's front and center for the design of the whole game. And I don't can't speak about Black Ops and all that, but
It also like just blends better, and because the Call of Duty, the problem with Call of Duty is when they implemented those movement mechanics, and
yeah,
again, this could be a whole different podcast, but and it still kept the core like you get shot once you die kind of thing,
yeah,
and then that just made the jumping irrelevant or redundant as you're playing through like multiplayer.
yeah,
It's
true,
like you
right,
run into a room and get shot and die. You couldn't
right,
do your fancy maneuvers.
yeah, exactly,
Now if you put those in like Titanfall, where like it takes a lot more bullets to kill you in Titanfall, so therefore you have more opportunities to use that dodge and like movement mechanics to just run away. Well,
yeah,
you'll get hit a few times, but you're moving in such a erratic pattern that like you can survive and live to fight another day. And I
yeah,
think that plays a huge part into just like utilizing those different mechanics in general. Like Titanfall 2, I also like isn't complicated about it. Like I feel like Call of Duty kind of made it convoluted in some ways. Well, Titanfall 2
oh
is like,
sure, yeah,
yeah, you can double jump, and also when you run against this wall, you wall run. That's literally like, and then sometimes you have a grappling hook. That's literally all they do with it. Like, and
yeah,
they chain that together. It's like Mario, where you have a jump, but you jump in such different ways every single time that like
yeah,
it all blends together super well. But the control scheme itself is really easy and simple. And
yeah, yeah.
I feel like that's what a lot of people miss when implementing those movement mechanics. Like Mirror's Edge is probably the biggest like person that's guilty of that, where the parkour system, while super detailed, makes me want to punch my TV. I'm like, what do you
Well,
mean I have to press like 4 buttons just to land?
that's what I mean. Yeah, it's like I just don't. I don't understand. Well, I heard this in from one of the devs who was describing Fallen Order, and so like when you're watching somebody play Fallen Order, it does look same with like deny that where like when you watch somebody
You're
how
breaking.
it feels.
You broke up a little bit. Could you repeat that?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so I'm just saying I heard one of the devs talking about Fallen Order, and he was saying that the very first thing they wanted to happen is they wanted feedback to guide animation, not for animation to guide feedback, right? And so, and I just was like thinking about that, and that makes so much sense because like Fallen Order feels so good to play. It just feels good in your hands in the same way that like Doom feels really good in your hands because feedback takes the priority over the actual animations. Now, like the animations are good, but you know, it like they're not going to sacrifice the feeling of the movement and the combat and stuff for the sake of something as petty as animations. But then you play a game like Red Dead 2, which is the worst sinner in this regard,
Oh,
where
dude.
animation drives everything and feedback is just ass a lot of the time, where you just, get clobbered by another horse that you didn't see because your horse is on blinders running down the road and you just get dissected by a wagon or something like that, or you punch the lady in the face when you're trying to mount your horse because it's like, oops, you
Dude.
know,
Oh, and then yeah, it's.
yeah.
I think
So it's like even I was just thinking this too. Like Destiny has the double jump feature, and for the most part, it's really not in service of much other than like very basic platforming, but it does the job. It really works
yeah.
to me. Like
Well,
I think it's fun
it
and
has like three different movements. Really, you had the double jump or triple jump with the hunter,
yeah,
and
yeah,
then
right.
the Titan can and Warlock can glide.
Do their own thing, yeah.
Yeah, and then like I love like it's like Titans can be some of the most mobile like since they're like you wouldn't expect it since they're like the heavy armored class, but like they are some of the most mobile because if you abuse their glide mechanic a little bit enough, you just start skating through the air where you can just kind of just sail through the air quicker than a dude can sprint.
Come sail away, come sail
Which is
away.
hilarious how that works that way. But yeah, like as much as
It's
I
the
love Destiny,
hypotenuse. You're
yeah,
you're
I'm like
cutting the cutting the.
yeah, as much as I don't like Destiny, I gotta say the actual gameplay mechanics are good.
Yeah, oh yeah. I
It's
think
just
that's the defensible quality of Destiny is that the gunplay is pretty
yeah,
is pretty
just
strong.
the scenario to said gunplay and what you're aiming for in general just turn me off entirely.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Especially
yeah.
because the writing is also
Not
just
my,
garbage.
yeah, hot garbage.
It is awful.
Well, that's what I'm so frustrated about with Anthem. It's like, dude, if Anthem had the same gameplay, like at the epicenter of its vision, in the same way that like a game like Fallen Order or something does, you know, it has so much potential, like flying around an open map with your little Iron Man suit and having the right kind of like elements to diversify your move set and your palette, and like it's just ripe. It just feels like it's ripe for those possibilities. But it's like you
Like their
what's up?
flight mechanic, as cool as it is the most innovative thing about that game. They do the least amount with it.
Yeah, right.
Like
Yeah.
you just use it basically to the traverse and positioning. And yeah, it
Yeah.
adds verticality to fighting when like you're there's like multiple layers and you gotta fly between each one. That is neat. However, I would have preferred it if there were just maps where you couldn't land, where it was just almost
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
sky and you just had to do things in the sky.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't understand how that was not again the very center of the design philosophy.
Yeah.
You start with the movement and then you design everything else around the movement. But it feels like they started with a map and they built the movement separate from the map, and then they just couldn't square those two things.
Yeah,
Like,
I think
or maybe it's a couple
well,
different
it's because I think game
elements.
design. I am no game developer. The most game designing I've ever been is being a DM. Uh, but
Yeah,
I think most game design should just be you give the characters their abilities and what they're gonna plan for, and everything else is secondary to that. Like
mm,
Anthem, the map could be really great. Where like, hey, it's that you can fly really fast, so therefore the maps need to be really big and maybe like not densely packed with the content that you'd see in like Witcher 3 almost, but like there's
yeah,
sections of immense interest that would just draw you to them where you would do a lot of things where it would just draw you by its own visual, like you when you see it from above it looks really beautiful, you just want to land there, and then all of a sudden things start happening around you from there.
yeah,
And then like things react to what your abilities are. Like I wish there was more flying enemies in Anthem because that would force you to fly more to catch up to them and get into the range and things like that.
yeah,
And like again, rather than having one city, I wish there were multiple cities that the act of just flying in between cities could be really relaxing and immersive, almost like flying between stations in Elite Dangerous, that kind of thing.
yeah,
And instead, it does this thing where like yeah, the map you have is really big, but it's instanced and
yeah,
like it doesn't feel like immersive at all. So therefore, it feels smaller than the gameplay systems that are within it like should have.
yeah,
Because
yeah. True.
because again, like like while you do have really cool moments of like flying up and down a like multi-layered base, like those are few and far between, and I feel like there should be way more of those just available to do. And so,
Yeah,
sometimes like you just land in like you land in this labyrinth of rock and you need to defend this point.
yeah.
But
Well, it just goes to show.
what you could just do, you just fly up and you shoot dudes as they're wandering through the maze, and you're kind of like, really, this is what I'm doing right now.
Yeah. Well, and I think that just has it's part of what Western gaming development is really struggling with is that corporate influence. Like, part of what we're seeing with Blizzard and other and Bethesda from the inside, what people from the inside are actually saying is that they're getting too corporate, and that when a company like ZeniMax, which owns Bethesda, or Activision, which is the corporate overlords for Blizzard, get their fingers in all these different pies, they see the amount of money that Destiny can make, even given its broken ass launch phase in both 1 and 2. Like Destiny 1 was kind of a clusterfuck in the beginning, and so was Destiny 2, and but they're still making money hand over fist, right? And so when that starts to happen, you see a game like Anthem where they build in the systems and they want it. They're like, okay, well, we want it to look like Destiny, but without any of the throughput. Like they obviously didn't square that design from the get go to build a system that worked that way. They just kind of and this is also coming from a lot of the reporting that came out about it, is that they built that game in basically 3 different places and then tried to sew it all up together together, and it just didn't work, and there wasn't a whole lot of trajectory or direction. And it's like,
Yeah,
I understand why companies should want to make money, like obviously that's incentivized, and I understand, but when you can bite off more than you can chew, and you can sell a product that's unfinished with no trajectory of what its end state is supposed to be, like I can totally see why that's broken and corrupt, not like inconsistent. And anyway, I don't know. It's when you see a game like Anthem with so much potential just like fall that hard on its face.
I think to just
It's
further
just
prove
mind
that
blowing.
you need to have a creative just anchor.
Vision.
Like just
Yeah, yeah,
one dude just needs to be the guy who's like, listen, it's gonna be this, this, and this. We're working towards it right now. We're doing it right now. Like,
yeah. Right.
and Japan with all its designs, like they always have a creative director that focuses the whole thing. And you could say what you want. Like I understand that Japanese people work themselves to the bone to make video games, and that's not really quite ethical. As long with the whole
Yeah.
Asian work ethic in general, where like you only like you have no outside life except your work at times. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
not very good. However, things about them that having like the clear hierarchy
Yeah.
there to basically like have direction and influence like
Yeah. Well,
works
and
really
it's
well.
not to say that they haven't made mistakes, or they haven't learned lessons
Oh,
in their industry too. Like look at a perfect example is Konami is a good example,
oh yeah,
right?
totally.
Chasing the money. Final Fantasy 15. I think like 12 years of development with no real like and
Focus, yeah.
right, and the game that actually shipped was just not well optimized, and even like the design within, like I've just heard a really in-depth analysis of like Final Fantasy 15 and what its flaws were, but like
Oh
even
yeah,
when you're thinking about
it's another
what's up.
example of a game that's its gameplay systems didn't match the world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. It's like a big world with little in it, and like why all these cities are constantly surrounded by mines, Rome in the night. None of these cities have any walls.
You broke up
you
again. You
know
should probably repeat that again.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
So like, just the idea that there's not like the level of depth to the design that even makes some of its systems sensical,
Yeah.
and like, just it's little stuff. It's character design. Like all the characters are kind of aimless bots. Most of them dressed very similarly. You can watch three guys dressed in the same outfit with minorly different colors
That
walking
is
to the walking
very
to the gas
true.
station behind
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
They're literally behemoths walking in the woods 100 meters away from the gas stations and away from the cities and stuff like that. But you never see any walls. You never see. There's no walls guarding any of the cities. And like, anyway, it's all that stuff's like nitnoy, and that's not really
Yeah,
the biggest criticisms of that game.
it's
But
tonally weird because like you go into a city and it's like a modern day city and you're like cool, cool, cool,
yeah,
and then you're driving and all of a sudden there's a giant like dinosaur. You're like,
yeah,
this thing's just on the road. What are we doing with this thing? Like,
it's like there's. So you're saying that this sophisticated society has come off the like,
you
you
again,
know,
you got complete cut off again. Sorry.
oh goddamn.
Yeah.
Let me maybe it's my okay. Am I coming in any clear? Hopefully.
Yeah. Right.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm not hearing any problems right now. So.
Yeah. But it's like in more examples of Japan learning their lessons. So Capcom's reputation for the last few years was down in the dumps, I would argue. Like, and then
Oh, dude, like
but then
Japan in general, last console generation was
yeah, right.
not doing so hot. Like,
Exactly. Yeah, and so thankfully a lot of those companies have righted the ship. Capcom is crushing it right now. I'm really really holding out for Dragon's Dogma 2.
dude,
Really
again,
hope that's in.
like the guy who, like the the director of Devil May Cry 5 is the director of Dragon's Dogma, and he was like,
What?
yeah, I think he said that he would make Dragon's Dogma 2 as soon as they let him make Devil May Cry 5. So
Oh, don't tell me that. Don't tell me.
maybe,
You're trying to get my jimmies rustled.
dude,
I'm
the moment they announced that, I'm just gonna be like,
oh
yes.
yeah, that's the RPG I really want, man. That's
Yeah,
it.
it's really weird too because I didn't expect to love that game as much as I did. Like, I was like,
In
oh,
fact, I
look at this
would argue,
interesting Capcom title, and then I played it. I'm like,
yeah.
this is the best game ever.
I was like, I remember getting to about the end of that game. I was like, I swear, one more of you assholes I'm going to throttle you in the face. I have a name. It's like
Arisen.
arisen. Or well, what are the puns are hilarious. And then Fornival was my love of
Oh,
the
that
love of my life.
yeah. See, I had the Duchess, and I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And then, like, no, I
Boy,
had Fornival. Like, what the hell happened
that
in
was
your
the
story?
funniest. That was literally the funniest, romance in a video game I've had since Fable. I swear to God, that was so funny. I was howling when Fornival was. He's like holding him up, like, "Would you sacrifice the ones you love?" And you're like, "Dude, it's just my. That's my merchant. That's my.
Yeah,
He's my dealer. you know, it's like Pineapple Express.
that's
Uh,
amazing.
yeah, I don't know.
Just like
I
that.
think I'm
I think
hoping we'll learn.
yeah, that game was like I don't know what it was about the game because like the story was bleh, but the gameplay was really fun. And
Yeah,
like it was the exploration and actual fight combat were really fun. Everything else was just like, what is this? Like the
yeah,
quests,
and
the quests weren't all that engaging.
oh no.
And like the towns themselves were pretty lifeless and bare. But for some
Yeah,
reason, the moment you stepped outside of town and started exploring that world, you're like,
that's
I
what I mean,
love
man.
this game.
It's a make your own fun kind of game, but I want to believe that a lot of the DNA that's in Dragon's Dogma found its way into Zelda. Like
Yeah,
even Monster Hunter World. Like I think a lot of a lot of the boss fights anyway reminded me a lot of Monster Hunter, but and a little bit of Shadow of the Colossus because you can like climb all over the boss and like slash them up and
yeah,
stuff.
especially with the clutch call mechanic now, like where you can't quite climb onto the boss, and you can jump onto them and do some damage.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
just seems natural to Monster Hunter because it's like,
Mm.
yeah, why wouldn't you do that? Like,
Well, yeah, in exploration, like you said, the fact is the it's just a really compelling and fun gameplay loop. It feels just like it's I think it's the same DNA that gives Oblivion and Skyrim their magic, where like you're gonna if you go in any direction, you're gonna find something, and it's like and the other thing is like they marry the stakes in Dragon's Dogma are a little bit hardcore. Like you have to, you can't fast travel anywhere, and the only places you can fast travel are the stones that you have to leave yourself, right? And so it's like being strategic about where you put your travel stones
and
can make or break a game,
the funniest part about that too is that they remain on new game pluses. So
Oh, really? I
the
didn't
more
know
you
that.
beat that game, the faster you can get through it with the travel
Oh, nice.
stones. So
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, so like, that's really neat. It's a really neat, like a rewarding mechanic. But I
Yeah, yeah,
myself, like for some reason, like I generally hate escort missions, but the all the escort missions
dude.
in that game where you had you like travel like days in game to get to a place. For some reason, I love those just because you just slowly walk through the world and experience it, and then sometimes a chimera would jump out of the woods and try to eat your
Yeah,
party, and
dude.
you're like, dude, like, what is a chimera? Why is there a chimera right here? Kind of
Is it
thing.
the ogre who will just like run, who will just wombo combo smash you with his feet? What's I think it's an
That's
ogre.
the troll, I think.
No, the ogre is the guy who chills in the tunnels, right?
Oh
I
yeah,
think
yeah,
I think they're the ogres.
it's an ogre. I thought it was a troll for some reason.
No, the
You have to set him
I
on
remember
fire, otherwise, and then when he sees your
well,
female party members, he gets really excited, which is
yeah,
really it's
that's
really
so,
fucking creepy. Like,
I love I love that because it's so realistic. Like like that's how it goes.
that's
Like,
why like one of the funnest fights in that game though, because he's very
dude.
reactive. So
Well, and yeah,
you jump on his back, he flips onto his back to crush you.
yeah, yeah.
It's a good time, man.
I remember I was like there's that first kind of tunnel sequence that can get you from kind of the beginning area all the way. It's like a cut through the mountains, right? So you can go over the mountains where you have to like escort the wagon and the supplies at some point in the early game
Yeah,
where you have to fight the harpies. But then you get access to the mine, and it just felt like so much like Moria to me, which I thought was really cool. Nailed that nuance because it's really dark, and um,
yeah.
and
The lighting in the game was incredible.
yeah, and so like I remember I was walking up with my pawns and I heard a noise, but it was too dark and I couldn't see anything, and so you're holding up your torch, which makes it so you can see about 10 feet in front of you, and I was like, what is that? And then all of a sudden it got really quiet, and I was kind of like looking into the dark, getting a little bit closer to my monitor to just like see what I could see. And then I just see 2 feet come screaming out of the
Oh
darkness,
my
and he
god.
just like just comes in like a like Ric Flair, just drop
Yeah.
kicking me into the moon. And it was just, I just remember because he's so fast. It was just like it was a terrifying fight. I was on my way back to turn in from the quest or something.
Nice.
And if you die, there's no, I don't think there's an autosave if I remember or something like that, or you have to like manually save. I
Yeah,
can't remember
I
how.
think you have to manually save. But I think the best part about those fights too is that he's hard as an enemy, but also the game has designed its environment to make that even more hectic. Like you never fight an ogre in an open area.
Yeah, right,
You
right, right.
always fight him on a narrow like stairway, or you fight him in a crowded tunnel where like he'll pick you up and run off with you, and like you can hear your pawns in the distance screaming for you, but he's dragging you away, and like you're just like, oh god, this is terrifying.
Yeah, no, dude.
And
I would, if they made a Dragon's Dogma 2 on the RE engine, I would shit my pants, dude.
dude,
I would,
oh
oh,
man, dream.
the
I
dream.
can just only hope that like they gave the Devil May Cry 5 treatment where it's
Yeah,
just that game but better graphics and like much like more insane like things that are happening.
yeah, dude.
Yeah, so just it'd be perfect.
Sounds like a perfect next gen launch title, if I don't say so myself.
Yeah, it would be awesome. I just wish everything just went to PC so I had to quit just buying consoles all the time.
I heard there's a talk about PlayStation eventually jumping on board with that because Xbox is already that. I'm really glad. That's the one thing I'm really proud of Xbox for doing. Is like I think the quality of their games has kind of gone down, declined a little bit this generation.
Yeah.
Just not because it's not like again more passable games. I feel like
Well,
it's just
they had
not.
a lot of interesting titles in the works that they canceled.
Yeah, that's
Like
true.
there was that Platinum Games one with like the dragon. I forgot what it was called.
Yeah,
You could
I'm sure. I don't know that would have like compelled me or convinced me one way or the other.
yeah, no, it wouldn't have been like super like amazing, probably not, but it looked like unique. So
Oh yeah,
that's
no, yeah, it
why
looked
maybe.
interesting for sure. Well, like I hope I'm really kind of scared honestly about Halo Infinite because I'm a Halo fan and Halo 4 and 5 I think were pretty disappointing.
Well,
I don't like the direction they went with that and I
I
want it
get
to
you.
be.
I wouldn't I enjoy 4, but again, 4 has the Force Awakens syndrome where its quality was determined by its successor, and
Yeah,
in both
that's true.
cases you're like, what the hell?
Yeah, well yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
Halo 5 completely ruined anything that happened in Halo 4. Like if Cortana stayed dead and the chief was actually traumatized by that for a lot of the game, that would have been amazing.
Yeah.
Instead, it's like, no, she's back, but she's evil now. It's like
Goody.
she should have just stayed dead. Like,
Yeah. Again, thank you for dragging dragging this into the
yeah,
I did yeah, it's hard to feel connected when like you have the whole like the epic adventure of Halo 1 through 3 and then Reach even which is more context which I think is even awesome. That's like I would have preferred a direction another trilogy just in that direction where it's like hey, separate from the canon of what we've already talked about, we just elaborate more on the context of who some of these characters are like
yeah.
make a game about Mark and Linda or something like that. Which
Or
they I mean they
or again, focus more on Blue Team. I don't care about Fire Team Osiris.
yeah,
Like,
dude, stop forcing that shit down my throat, man. It's
like
like stop saying this guy's just master. Hey, did you guys catch that yet? Did you guys catch it? This guy's badass.
yeah.
Did you hear
Like
that?
he fought Master Chief hand to hand, even though he's literally
Yeah,
2 heads shorter than him.
right.
I was like, okay, that's
It's like, and
impressive.
that dude has done a brute flood vivisection. But yeah, I'm sure
Yeah, I'm sure he's
uh,
doing fine.
John Locke is gonna hurt him.
And it's again, like besides Buck, I don't care about anyone. Like I don't remember the names of the women on that team. Well, like
Oh,
Blue Team has Linda, Kelly, and then Fred, right?
Fred. Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
so it has all three.
Yeah, maybe I'm
And like
thinking
I
later.
read the books, so I saw them. I was like, yes, this is perfect. If they spend time with these guys, I'm gonna love this. And you play
Yeah,
as them as like even less than you play as Master Chief in Halo 2.
yeah.
And I'm
I
like,
did.
and instead you have Fire Team Osiris, and you're like, I don't care about these people. Spartan fours are lame.
Yeah, yeah. Seriously.
And again, like in the end, like where are they gonna go? Is the main question with that because it's like, oh man, all the AIs are evil now. So now we have a bunch of Forerunner technology run by modern day AI, and we got to figure out what to do. And I'm like,
Yeah,
I was like, where'd
I
it
just
go?
don't see it. I don't see it landing. You know, maybe I don't know. Maybe I want what Halo Infinite is being marketed as, at least from this perspective, is like a renaissance. You know, a rebirth
Yeah.
of the franchise, which is what they desperately need.
All
But
you need to say is that Halo 5 was a fever dream. Then
yeah,
everything's
yeah,
good.
seriously.
Like Master Chief actually just crashed onto another Halo and was hallucinating as he was waking up.
Well, like let him mourn for crying out loud. Like Jesus, you know, like I would love to play a game like. Honestly, I don't see how like you can walk back the Cortana stuff, right? Because now it's like I don't know that the people realize what they're doing. It's like the Maya thing we are talking about in Borderlands 3. You know, they kill off a character from Borderlands 2 and Borderlands 3 casually, nonchalant, you know, basically just this random, weird, completely nonsensical power grab.
Well, the worst thing
Um,
about that too is that the dude that steals her powers in killing her uses her powers better than her.
yeah,
I'm like, what the fuck? Why? Like, if
yeah,
she had
right.
done any of that to you when she had her powers, you'd be fucked.
Or like, why wouldn't I mean? And it's easy stuff. Like, why wouldn't a boss fight precede that, and then she gets killed? So it's like, oh, you lost the boss fight, and then at the end of the boss fight, Maya gets her ass killed, right?
Or like, again, like you can have them showcase their powers when you're fighting them, and they can be really hard to beat. And again, yeah, like again,
Yeah, or
then
something.
then you
I'm
could
not even
feel their
defending Maya dying. I'm saying like,
yeah,
you could have done it better than they did.
yeah, and then you
Sure.
could feel the power there, and then make them imposing. And instead, every time you see them show up, you're like, ugh, this shit again. Like
Yeah, this is gonna
the
cost
whole
me.
thing with Lilith, where Lilith for some reason never has a gun, and it's like you
Dude,
can end this if you just shoot them right now. Like if you just had a gun and shot them instead, like they do this thing where their fight scenes are always awful.
oh yeah, it's the worst video gameism in a minute.
And then like they're punching each other in a video game about guns.
Yeah, that just doesn't square.
Or like, and then like Lilith is clearly winning in her scene where she knocks down Troy and beats his ass,
She's always right.
and then she
Yeah,
turns around and then Tyrene's like, I got your neck," and it's like, I guess she won. Like,
yeah.
and then
So
Maya dies from being touched on her arm, and then in her place we got Ava, who's like the most cliched character ever,
yeah,
and the worst personality. And the whole time I'm like, how did
well,
this
that's
happen?
the hilarious thing is like she's just a stubborn ass, like she's a stubborn asshole teenager or whatever. Like, and it's being, I see this in like Star Wars too, where it's like, um,
It's being
you know,
encouraged.
yeah, right, right, where it's like it's that it's that weird chauvinism of like not caring what anybody says, ignoring logic together, rushing into the fight Leroy Jenkins style, you know, because your gut is telling you or something like that. And it's like, and it's that those are the same criticisms that we've had for traditional like the stoic uh kind of macho man Odyssean hero who like that's the criticism of the Odyssean archetype. That's the criticism is because it's like, you know, that's why you have iteration and like and critique on that sort of shit in following writing because it's a hilarious metric. It's a like for instance in the Odyssey, Odysseus will literally kick a slave out of the galleys and say, "You're not rowing hard enough. I'm I'm going to outrow you right now." Why does a ship captain need to be proving proving his strength to that's not his job. You
Yeah,
know, like this is an awful. Like, I'm not saying it should be anybody's job, but I'm saying in this capacity, like that's a hilarious contradiction.
yeah.
You know, just like that's classically stupid, and yet the answer for like not having for her is exactly the same thing. It's being a stubborn dipshit, and then feeling none of the accountability or the consequences. Like Maya died, and the blood's on her hands, but that never gets squared, never
Like
gets talked
the
about.
thing is though that like the game always seems to tell you that she's in the right, and you're like,
Yeah,
no, she is not in the right. She is terrible.
it's like yeah, she just couldn't not be a part of this little thing, and she dragged us. And Maya's dead now.
Yeah.
You're grounded.
Like no, like I don't like you. I will never like you because now we're stuck with you, and you won't admit your mistake. I don't care if
Yeah.
you're sad. I really like you just ruined everything, and it's like, really weird because clearly she was meant to be the quirky character that endears herself to you, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But here's the problem: we already have that with Tiny Tina.
Yeah, I was about to say that with Roland and all that. Like, and it also makes a lot more. You're more likely to forgive Tina for her pathologies.
Well, here's the thing:
But then
Tina
like
never
the
got
way they.
anyone killed.
That's true. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
and Tina helps you through it most of the time, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
her
Yeah.
backstory is
It is not
annoying.
even close to the same.
And if you played like I think Ava has like one class that reveals her backstory where she's sad that being alone and has kind of a damaged past.
Yeah.
Except like the game is just rubbing it in your face the whole time,
Right.
and it's like, and then also it has a really just annoying jackass laughing about it in the background, which is supposed to make you feel sympathy for her.
I also think that's the majority of the game is
Yeah,
just like it's a lot of telling and not very much
it
showing.
has very little subtlety to it. Like
Yeah.
with Tina, at least, like there isn't a long drawn out thing about Tina's backstory. You just hear experiments of a person screaming, and then at the very end, it's revealed that it's Tina's mother.
Oh.
Yeah,
All right.
and then boom, that's her backstory. That's all you need to know about Tina. You didn't know
Well, there's
it was about Tina at all until the very end, which was very
yeah.
subtle and very well done. And then
I think
Assault
I
on
think there's
Dragon
some
Keep.
drama going on with that because Tina, like literally, Ashley Birch, the girl who plays Tina,
Yep.
um, is I think either the sister. I think it's the sister of the guy who wrote
Sister of
Borderlands 2.
yeah, sister of Anthony Birch, who wrote
Yeah,
Borderlands
and
2.
I guess there's like some controversy there that I'm not really
I
about.
haven't heard much controversy in that front.
Well, because he didn't write Borderlands 3, and I think that's literally the biggest.
Yeah,
That's
he,
that's the biggest difference.
the guy is annoying. If you ever looked at his Twitter, because I did once, and he's annoying, but like his
Yeah.
writing was actually decent. Borderlands 2 had a lot of subtlety to it that was enjoyable, like Assault on Dragon's Keep.
Well, yeah, right. And look at well, the funny thing is, like, you talk about subtlety, and like the one thing that Borderlands 3 has that Borderlands 2 definitely had was like there is absolutely, they it's a very cheeky, like lighthearted approach to death. Like, shoot me in the face is a quest in Borderlands 2, and it's just stupid. It's supposed to be stupid. It's supposed to like make you laugh at how absurd most of these games are. Like, when I heard about uh, Uncharted and how Drake is literally a psychopath. That dude has killed thousands of people
Yeah,
over the course of the Uncharted games, and yet they're all just laughing and pretending like it's no big deal, even though this dude is the worst serial murderer since Chris Kyle.
yeah,
It's like so like the idea, but anyway, like that doesn't that's like suspension of disbelief, and so Borderlands, the fact that they're talking about it openly too is so funny, and you're like it's very lighthearted. You just don't tend to see a lot of the repercussions a lot of the time, but then they edge it on, like when what's his name's bird dies,
Mordecai.
Mordecai's bird gets killed, and I was like, that actually like hit me. I was like, fuck, they killed Mordecai's bird. That's awful. And then with Roland in Assault on Dragon's Keep, the reason that hits so hard is because it is right in the face and in line with the theme of saying like, hey, they're treating death like it's so lighthearted, it's not that serious, it's not that big a deal, and like how it's and the whole game is kind of an illusion about that. And then when Roland actually dies, and it's literally just a vetting or a coping mechanism. You finally find out at the very last minute that's a coping mechanism for Tiny Tina. This whole thing about Assault on Dragon's Keep is to keep Roland's memory alive. That right there is showing, not telling.
Yeah.
That is incredibly thematic and consistent and really solid writing, I believe, for that reason. Because it's like you're really giving, like, opening that line up. But then Borderlands 3 completely spits in the face of all that, because it's like, yeah, it still treats the same kind of casual approach to like death as completely inconsequential, and it's just not that big a deal. But then you also have main characters dying, but then you also treat that as inconsequential. Like treating Maya's death as inconsequential, like
No one.
literally robs it of significance. And you're like, that was that was some people's favorite character.
Yeah.
Somebody played Maya all the way through that game. I personally played Zero, but
Yeah.
yeah, anyway.
I played Roland, and you can imagine how his death affected me. I was like, you
Yeah,
bastard!
right. I played Mordecai in
Roland,
person.
why didn't you have a shield, you jackass?
Yeah, you son of a
If
bitch.
I was playing you, this wouldn't have happened.
Yeah,
But yeah,
exactly.
it's like when you kill off a character with that kind of history to it. Like some people like again, it's always the whole going to it subverted your expectations about this. But like I feel like you could have killed her if it made more sense. And just
Yeah,
the
dude.
whole
Yeah,
scene in general is like you made her look weak, you made her extremely incompetent, and then you
yeah.
killed her.
Why? Yeah, yeah. Why did you? Why did Anya? Is that her name? What's the little girl's name?
Ava.
The Ava, whatever. Why is Ava's strength elaborated at the cost of Maya?
Yeah.
Right, when Maya has like the legacy factor, it just doesn't. It just didn't make. It just
Well, and
felt
again,
hollow.
like
It
I
didn't
said,
make any
again,
sense to me.
Maya wasn't old. She was younger than Lilith. She was in a mentor role of it as an inexperienced mentor, mind you. So
Yeah,
she wasn't the wise mentor, and that's a really
but she
interesting.
was. Yeah,
It's a really interesting angle that you could have explored with a
yeah,
inexperienced mentor who doesn't know how to raise and teach somebody, and
yeah.
you
Right.
watch her develop that way. That could have been a super interesting angle.
Yeah,
Instead,
dude.
like it's like, oh, you'll know, dead, and it's like, what where
Yeah,
where did this go? And then Troy gets her powers and immediately uses them better than she could.
yeah.
I'm like,
Guess
I'm like, and it's like the villains themselves, like they're just given powers.
trash.
It's
Oh
like they're
god,
very
I
sweet
just.
villains until you kill them.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's like they're just given things to make them look imposing
Well,
until you kill them, and then
that's what I mean, though.
then it's
It's not.
evil.
It's so sarcastic all the time that really
And it's like,
building up to the moment where you finally killed him is a sense of relief of like, finally that dumbass will shut up. You know what I mean? Like, it's not about like,
it's not like Handsome Jack where he hates you, you hate him, so it's a mutual like hate there. It's
yeah,
just them trash talking to you until you shoot them in the face, and it's like
yeah, right.
this doesn't have the same like emotional investment there. Like Troy killed Maya because of a mistake, not because he was maliciously trying to kill her. Like
Yeah,
he just touched her arm and she evaporated.
it's like it's just like Luke Skywalker in Last Jedi,
Yeah, he shot himself
like the
forward
snows of yesteryear.
and disappeared. And it makes me just it's like that kind of aspect of writing. People just don't like people just want the payoffs without actually building to the payoffs. And
Yeah,
it's just really irritating to me. And plus, Troy and Tyrene are like if boomers wrote about YouTube
I know.
personalities.
It
Like
must have been Randy Pitchford's idea. It must have
I'm like,
been.
what the hell is this? Like the
It's
videos they
like
made to taunt you. I was like, did a 5-year-old make this?
the
Like, am I supposed to feel bad?
personification of his Reddit trolls. They must be,
Yeah,
and that's what I like. Yeah, you're nuts with on that. I think all of it. I think all of it really does actually stem from the antagonist. The two pillars, I think, are themes and antagonists.
yeah.
And if you don't nail both of those things, you're just fighting a man down. You
Because
know.
the entire time you're playing the whole Atlas section, I thought
Mhm.
with Reese and Katagawa, I thought was actually really good stuff. Like, no, well, I mean, like not super like amazing. Like I will remember for the rest of my life stuff, but like it was
No, no,
competently
no,
done.
dude.
It was
Yeah,
competently done,
yeah,
and it had enough of that humor and like playback between the two, like the guy you're working for and the guy you're trying to fight. It had enough there where like you're just having a good time playing it, and maybe it wasn't the deepest thing, but you'd had a blast playing it. Like when you're on the moon, dude, I was having so much fun on the moon.
yeah, dude.
And
Yeah, there's like a callback to the pre-sequel, which I actually liked. I played with you, I guess,
yeah,
in college.
yeah, but like I was having a blast doing that. I was like, this is great stuff. Like this is solid writing, not like as deep as Borderlands 2, but still solid in the fact that I'm enjoying myself and I'm enjoying the banter and dialogue.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then you get to the Atlas Vault, and it all goes downhill from like there. Like I think what planet are you on? I think the planet you go to next is like the Jacobs planet.
Yeah, that must be where I'm
And
at.
the actual planet storyline itself is great. It's just the inclusion of Tyrene and Troy that makes it really annoying. Like the planet to planet storylines aren't bad at all. Like they're nice, good adventuring fun.
Yeah,
It's the overarching plot and how that develops is what makes me just pissed off at the game. Because
yeah. It's sad because I just put on a podcast when I play Borderlands,
yeah,
and like I wish that wasn't but I honestly, I'm annoyed by the writing most of the time. It's just like I want to beg these people to shut up. You can't skip through it though. That's the most frustrating part. It's
It's like
like I've
it's
not.
a it's shitty sarcasm. Like Handsome Jack, at least when he had legitimately hilarious moments every time Tyrene speaks. I'm like, man, this is what like an 11-year-old thinks is intimidating and like sarcastically funny.
Yeah, that's the sad part.
And I'm just like, and then Handsome Jack again had moments where like he wasn't sarcastic all the time. Sometimes he was legitimately pissed,
Yeah, right. Yeah,
and he felt that emotion come through real good.
yeah, no,
And
for sure.
I just wish there was more of all that going. I heard the DLC for it, which was like focusing on Handsome Jack again, was actually pretty decent. So maybe I'll give that a shot. But
Hmm.
just like it's just an example of how writing can just kill my investment in something because the game is the most fun Borderlands ever has been in terms of gameplay.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah, like playing as the operative is like super fun. I really love the abilities there.
Who's the operative? You
It's
mean the?
it's Zane who has like the
Oh yeah,
drone and like do you play
yeah.
as
I've
him?
been playing as him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's super solid, especially the fact that he can equip two abilities. That's the best
yeah,
part
that's
about
pretty
him.
cool. Yeah, for sure.
He's the only one that can do that. It's like, well, I guess I'm just gonna play as this guy because I love me abilities. I don't care about grenades. And
Yeah, at all.
the way he's designed, anyways, is that like if you build him a certain way, you'll throw out more grenades that you can carry capacity for free
Mm.
as him. Because like I think I have it built right now where I throw out my drone. My drone throws a grenade as soon as it pops up. I throw out my doppelganger. That doppelganger throws out a grenade as soon as it happens, and then the drone will drop random grenades from there. And then I have a perk where the first shot from my gun has a chance of shooting a grenade along with it, and it's a double-barreled shotgun that reloads really quickly. So
Oh, nice.
I can get a chain where I shoot like 5 grenades along with shotgun shells
Mm.
going through, and it's like that kind of synergy there is just super satisfying to experience.
Yeah, no, I got you.
And the character, like the actual character, like Zane, is super interesting as a personality, just because the Irish man thing.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
no, for sure.
the hunter, forgot his name, Flack. He's really cool and interesting. Haven't really paid that much attention to the gunner class. All I have to say is that Amara the Siren is like, eh. Like
Yeah,
her abilities are cool, but her personality falls into the whole like she's just a strong woman, I guess.
yeah. Flack is probably my second. He was the one I was kind of deciding between, but I ended up going with Zane.
Yeah,
But
yeah. Zane is probably the most fun for me, just because his cloning ability and his drone just make everything really nice.
for sure, man.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
So that has
Well,
been today's podcast. Got into a tangent at the end, but I think it all
like
came
always.
together. So we will see all you guys at some point. Hopefully, we can get these out weekly, even if it's a small audience. So
Thanks for listening.
yeah,
If you made it this far,
yeah. Hopefully, just put on in the background like we do and just listen that way.
that's how you get through Borderlands 3. That's for sure.
Yeah. And all your Sekiro and Star Citizen stock all in
Oh God.
here.
Yeah.
All right. See you guys next time.
Later.